A beautiful Friday night, and you know what we do every single Friday? You know what we do every single day? We fire up some real money fantasy football draft, and it looks like we are about to pass 73,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you go down there, hit that subscribe button. That way you can have some fun. You can come draft with us on this live stream. And also, if we hit 90,000 subscribers before the season starts, has to be before the season starts because I want to be able to do these drafts, we will do a 24-hour draft marathon where I am drafting nonstop. So if you want to see that, if you want to see me, dear God, go crazy on a live stream, make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going to be picking at 2 here. I think at 2, it's going to be exciting. You get one of Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. I know some people are making the argument for Cooper Kupp here based on the running back value that you can have in the 2-3 turn. I can't get there, guys. It's Jonathan Taylor. It's CMC. Even with the injury concerns that you have with Christian McCaffrey, the upside's a little bit too much to pass up on. But J-Cats on the clock right now. I'm assuming are going to go Jonathan Taylor. If they don't, trust me, I'll be happy. I'll be happy getting Taylor at 2 if he doesn't go off the board. Okay, so no, it looks like they're taking this down all the way to the very end. I'm assuming they're auto drafting. No, they take Christian McCaffrey. So we are going to get Jonathan Taylor at pick 2. I've seen this happen more and more. People willing to go with Christian McCaffrey, taking the highest ceiling possible. I understand it. I took Christian McCaffrey in my $500 draft at the 104. Yes, this is a running back that can get to 29 points per game. It's hard to believe that Jonathan Taylor will ever have a season like what Christian McCaffrey did in 2019. And I'm of the opinion that 9 times out of 10, when people are trying to come out here and predict injuries in fantasy football, they're doing themselves a disservice. Please, please don't think you can predict injuries in fantasy football. But on the extremes, we can at least be intellectually honest with each other. And we can say Christian McCaffrey's probably at a higher risk for injury than Jonathan Taylor, considering CMC is going into year 3 of his second contract. We really haven't seen him play in the last 2 years. And Jonathan Taylor is a rookie. Was a rookie in 2020, is a third-year player. And coming into his rookie season, we saw him at Wisconsin handle 2,000-yard season after 2,000-yard season after 2,000-yard season with no issue with that workload. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm still going to take Taylor at 2. Now we have Kupp, Jefferson, Jamar Chase off the board through the first 5 picks. This is extremely standard on what you should expect with Underdog Fantasy. You have to start 3 wide receivers on Underdog, so these guys will never fall outside the top 5. Like if you pull pick 6, pick 7, and you have Jamar Chase fall to you, you have to take him there, and you have to thank God that he fell, because on Underdog Fantasy, it's going to be key to grab some of those wide receivers. And if you're not drafting on Underdog Fantasy, if you are not having some fun this offseason, make sure you go to the link in the description, the link in the live chat, the link in the comment section. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up so you can get in some drafts with us. You can get in some drafts in the public lobby. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100 with promo code FLOCK. And at the same time, you'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. So make sure you take advantage of that. We have Aaron Jones off the board here, pick 15. Aaron Jones sliding up. DeAndre Swift sliding down. Y'all know I was adamant earlier this offseason that DeAndre Swift was someone that should be going behind Aaron Jones, behind Joe Mixon. I think more and more people are getting on board with that as well. Okay, so it looks like some people asking when we are going to get another rankings video out. I'll post another wide receiver rankings video maybe in 2 days, another running back rankings video maybe in like 4 days. I'll make sure we get some rankings videos out because, of course, we've had some changes. We have already updated our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. We've already updated the rankings as well. So should be good to go. Tyreek Hill, 19. Alvin Kamara, 18. So DeAndre Swift is really falling here. This is where DeAndre Swift's a value. Where people were telling you to draft him at the end of the first round, the very beginning of the second round earlier this offseason. I can't agree with that. But if you're getting DeAndre Swift falling behind Barkley, falling behind Joe Mixon, Kamara, this is where DeAndre Swift should be going. And this is where I'll be excited to draft DeAndre Swift. Like, I'm really hoping we get DeAndre Swift at pick 23. This team that's on the clock took Justin Jefferson at 4. They go Michael Pittman. We're going to get a value here, whether it's DeAndre Swift or Mike Evans. We can get someone that we're very excited about. The team on the clock goes DeAndre Swift to pair up with Cooper Kupp. We are going to get Mike Evans and Jonathan Taylor on the same team. Mike Evans, a player that was going at the beginning of the second round consistently not that long ago. Of course, the Julio Jones signing does change some things, but I'll be excited to go Evans. And now that we are getting Javonte Williams in the early third, I'll be fine taking Javonte as well. Maybe you can make the argument, oh, Mason, you should go ahead. You should take Leonard Fournette. That way you can get some correlation in here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers passing offense, and we can look to target Tom Brady a little bit later on. This time, let's just take Javonte Williams. I understand, yes, he's in a committee with Melvin Gordon. That's why we were saying that he shouldn't have been drafted in the middle of the second round as he was earlier this offseason. But here at pick 26, I'm going to be fine with it. Starting a little running back heavy, but I think given the production we should have with Mike Evans and the touchdown upside in particular, we're going to be able to overcome it. We're going to be able to find some wide receiver values later on. Jacob says, who are you most afraid to draft? I really don't like that question because if I don't like someone at their price point, I'm not afraid to draft them. I just refuse to draft them. Like, I just won't do it. I'm never afraid. I will say one player that I've refused to draft so far, y'all know who this is, and it looks like it's going to burn us given the Tim Patrick injury. I have no Courtland Sutton. So if there's one player that I'm afraid of this year, I was not afraid of him when he was going as the wide receiver 16 before the Tim Patrick injury, when Sutton was going in the third round, when Tim Patrick was going to be on this roster and the Denver Broncos were going to have the best wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 combo in the NFL with Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler. I was not worried about passing on Sutton in the third. But now that Tim Patrick's missing the season, if there's one player in fantasy that scares me, it's going to be Sutton, because if he goes nuclear, if Russell Wilson turns this into last year's Los Angeles Rams, oh dear God, we may be losing some money, ladies and gentlemen. Nate says, what do you think about the report out of Denver that it's going to be Javonte Williams in a 70-30 split? Last report that I read out of Denver said it was going to be Javonte Williams in like a 65-35 split. Like, it doesn't matter whatever the report is coming out. I mean, we can go back to look at what happened last year where Melvin Gordon actually averaged more carries per game and more yards per carry. Now, of course, we're not expecting Melvin Gordon to continue to the same role that he had last year. I'm going to look at the contract that Melvin Gordon got, look at the team investment that you have with the Javonte Williams, with how efficient Javonte Williams was at the same time. So I'm not going to overreact based on any report of what a coaching staff's going to tell us that their breakdown per touches are when it's August 5th. I think whatever they tell the media doesn't really hold much weight. But if we're looking at the actual trajectory of these two players, I think you can get excited about third round Javonte Williams. And Leonard Fournette falls all the way to pick 32 here. I think that's the furthest I've seen Leonard Fournette fall in a very long time. Maybe it's due to people being a little bit concerned about the offensive line injuries in Tampa. Maybe you're a little concerned about the overall offense. I don't know. You have Travis Etienne, 37. Etienne's been a player that I've noticed falling a ton. Like, y'all know I'm in these underdog drafts 24 hours a day. And I believe there were like 2 or 3 drafts earlier this morning where I had Travis Etienne fall to us at like the 4 or 5 turn. Like, Etienne's definitely a player falling. I would not advise anybody to draft Travis Etienne at his price point. And you have Kyle Pitts falling to pick 40. Very surprising. I think maybe we need to keep this in mind and say, let's not reach on George Kittle at pick 50. Look at how this league's devaluing tight end. We're probably going to get some tight end value a little bit later on. But getting Kyle Pitts at pick 40, that is unbelievable. I mean, I would be so excited about that team at 9 if instead of going Breece Hall, 33, they decided to grab a wide receiver with Keenan Allen. But you have to be excited about Kyle Pitts and the upside that he has in the 4th. And Darren Waller goes 2 picks after, so maybe this league isn't going to extremely devalue the tight end position. I'm unsure. You have Justin Herbert going to the team that took Austin Eckler and Mike Williams. It's not too much of a surprise. Now, after this, at wide receiver, Hollywood Brown off the board. Hollywood's another player that I have noticed him falling ever so slightly. If Allen Robinson's here at the 4 or 5 turn, it's kind of whatever. Like we said, I think based on the Kyle Pitts selection and how Kyle Pitts fell to pick 40, I'm not going to be that excited to take a George Kittle here at either 47 or 50, so we're probably going to pass on Kittle if he's available to us. Cam Akers is a fine value here at the beginning of the 5th round. Dave says Wilson goes 80% of the targets to the number 1 and number 2, and the other 20% my man, that is the worst take I've ever heard in my entire life. I understand where you're coming from. Yes, you can go through and you can look at the historical target breakdown from Russell Wilson in Seattle. Are we not going to keep in mind that you're looking at Russell Wilson in Seattle with the weapons of DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and then legitimately nobody else? Personnel is going to affect that. The coaching staff's going to affect that. You think that we have Russell Wilson coming out and going, hey, man, yeah, Pete Carroll, don't bother putting a third wide receiver on the field. I'm never going to look at him. I'm just throwing the ball to the top two guys. I don't care how good the third wide receiver. No, Russell Wilson didn't have depth in the receiver core in Seattle. Russell Wilson had 2 elite level wide receivers with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. That's why the targets were funneled to those 2 players. And even if you break down the math, it's not correct math. You think Tyler Lockett and Metcalf are accounting for 80% of this team's target share? Not even close, my friend. Now, we got Jerry Jeudy here, pick 47. I think with Tim Patrick off the board in Denver, all of a sudden, Jerry Jeudy's going to be a lot more appealing in this range. We can still get an elite level quarterback at pick 50. We can still get Cam Akers. We did take Javonte Williams at the beginning of the third, so we are getting some correlation with this Denver Broncos offense. Now, y'all know Patrick Mahomes is my most drafted player because Patrick Mahomes falls to the 5th round in a ton of these drafts. Patrick Mahomes falls to the middle of the 5th round, like pick 54, 55, 56. And at that range, I can't help myself but drafting him. Here, pick 50, when we have Cam Akers available to us, I will go ahead. I'll take Cam Akers. But very similar to Travis Etienne, I don't know if someone's coming out and making videos, maybe wrote an article or something telling you not to draft Cam Akers. Maybe there's a piece of news that I missed out on. But Cam Akers is another one of these players that I've noticed falling a considerable amount. I believe in a draft this morning, I got Cam Akers in like pick 54, 55, 56. I know it was definitely in the middle of the 5th round, which was really surprising. But let me go ahead. I need to turn the fan on or I'm going to be sweating my ass off. So give me 1 second. And as I go do this, please make sure you go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Okay, there we go. Now I'm not going to be dying on the live stream. We'll be able to go a couple hours here with that fan on. Okay, so we have David Montgomery off the board, pick 53. Obviously, the reports around David Montgomery are centering with him playing on special teams, with him returning kicks. I think it's a random practice report. I think it's not something you should worry about too much. If you like David Montgomery in the 5th round beforehand, you should still be fine with David Montgomery at pick 53 here. Now let's go through. Let's scroll this down. Elijah Mitchell gone. So it looks like this league may be pushing up running backs a bit because Montgomery does have an ADP behind Juju, behind George Kittle, behind Patrick Mahomes. Same thing with Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell usually doesn't go off the board until the middle of the 6th round in these drafts. It would be beneficial for us to have some of these running backs go off a little too early because we have Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Cam Akers. So it's not like we're looking to load up on a ton of more running backs. It'd be better if we had some wide receiver value falling, which is usually what you're looking at. Usually you're looking at like a Drake London or DeAndre Hopkins on the way back around here at the very end of the 6th. But Amon-Ra St. Brown off the board. Juju Smith-Schuster gone at pick 57. Guys, this is why Mahomes is one of my most drafted players in fantasy this year. Patrick Mahomes still available at pick 58. Yeah, DK Metcalf gone. So it looks like you're probably going to Mahomes off the board at either 60 or 61 to the team that drafted Travis Kelce at pick 12. Can you imagine getting Kelce at 12 and then all of a sudden having Patrick Mahomes make it back to you at pick 60? That would be wild, wild, wild. Yeah, Adam Thielen off the board at pick 59. So if D. Jones does not take Patrick Mahomes here, it doesn't matter who they decide to draft. It doesn't matter if they take J.K. Dobbins. It will be the worst pick in this draft. Easily. You have Kelce at 12 and you get Patrick Mahomes at 60. It's an auto pick. He goes Dobbins for your sake. Yeah, please go Mahomes. Okay. He goes Patrick Mahomes. I was going to be very worried about that if he did not. And also, maybe we do need to take note that this league may devalue quarterbacks as well. I mean, if we're going to go through and look at this, Josh Allen, 35. That's about 4 picks past his ADP. Patrick Mahomes at 61. Maybe if we're breaking ties, we're still going to keep on breaking ties in favor of those running backs, in favor of those wide receivers, assuming that we can find tight end value, we can find quarterback value a little bit later on in this draft. But yeah, speaking on Not looking at those tight ends. George Kittle makes it all the way to pick 65. Okay, yeah, Dalton Schultz, not in consideration here at the 6-7 turn whenever we're looking at this league and their preference with these onesie positions in quarterback and tight end. If Jalen Hurts were to make it back to us at 71, we do go ahead and we take Jalen Hurts. But honestly, I don't even think we reach on Russell Wilson despite us having Jerry Jeudy and Javonte Williams, given what we are seeing from this league. I think we really want to hammer in some running backs and wide receivers here. Best Hand says, what do you think are the best draft spots? Personally, I want to pick inside the top 5. I want to have access to one of Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Outside of that, that's where it gets a little sketchy. I think a lot of the round 2 running backs have a similar range of outcomes to those round 1 guys that you'd have to pay up for. So I would personally be trying to get a top 5 pick if, of course, we had any say. Now, this team on the clock did not take A.J. Brown. Who's the A.J. Brown team? Okay, so A.J. Brown was taken at exactly the 2-3 turn by J-Cats here. So I think that there's a realistic chance that we actually may get Jalen Hurts on the way back around. These are the players that we're going to be interested in. Nobody else in this range. If we want Jalen Hurts, we have to take him at 71 because the team at 72, 73 is going to take him. They took A.J. Brown. We do want Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that, in my opinion, has it in the range of outcomes to be the quarterback 1 overall in fantasy, given the offensive line, given A.J. Brown coming over to Philadelphia here. And I guess actually, no, Devonta Smith is already off the board. Where did Smith go? Smith went at pick 67. I was going to say it would be really nice if we could get Devonta Smith off as well. Smith has an ADP of 73, so usually you can get him here at the 6-7 turn. But if we don't get London, where do we go? I'm not taking Dalton Schultz, not in this league. I don't like Dalton Schultz in his price point here to begin with, and especially in a league where we see George Kittle fall to pick 65. London's off the board. Dear God, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to do. I was talking about not liking the idea of reaching on these quarterbacks either, with the potential value that we could get with, say, a Dak Prescott, Tom Brady making it to us a pick 95. But y'all know I'm never drafting Allen Lazard. It's not like I love Antonio Gibson here. Let's go ahead. Let's take Russell Wilson. I understand this is the exact opposite of what we said we were going to do. The exact opposite of what I said I was going to do was go take quarterbacks, go take tight ends. But, and there's a big but on this, this is how the board fell to us. I thought we were going to get maybe a Drake London, maybe a DeAndre Hopkins here at the 6-7 turn. Obviously, we're done drafting quarterbacks. We would not have taken both of these elite level guys if it was not going to be best ball. But we can really hope that all of a sudden maybe the Josh Allen team, maybe the Patrick Mahomes, the Kyler Murray team also decides to dip their toe back into elite level quarterbacks. At least, I mean, from my perspective, the water's warm. Feel free to come on in. Feel free to add Dak Prescott, to add Tom Brady to your team and help us push down some wide receiver value. Help us push down some running back value on the way back around. And regarding Russell Wilson, in terms of the other quarterbacks that possibly we should have gone with elsewhere, maybe you make the argument we should go ahead. We should take Trey Lance, Joe Burrow. It doesn't really matter. We take Jerry Jeudy. We take Javonte Williams. We're already betting on this Denver Broncos passing offense to be better than their ADPs indicate. And if that's going to be the case, Russell Wilson's going to smash in. Oh my God. We were out here hoping that we were going to get guys like Lance off the board. Stafford and Derek Carr, both off before Tom Brady, Dak Prescott. Oh dear God. This is best case scenario for us because we can probably still assume Tom Brady and Dak Prescott are off the board by the time we're back up on the clock at pick 95. So if that happens, we are going to get some serious running back wide receiver value falling. Yeah, you have Dalton Schultz falling down in pick 82 here. This is approximately, I want to say, about 11 picks past his ADP. I think this is probably about where Dalton Schultz should be valued, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think Dalton Schultz is some fantastic pick when he's going at the very end of the 6th. I've seen him go at the end of the 5th, at the beginning of the 6th in a lot of these drafts, but that was mainly happening about 2 weeks ago. Treylon Burks, Tony Pollard off the board at pick 84. I'd imagine that this Dalton Schultz team may go ahead and take Dak Prescott to get that Dalton Schultz and Dak Prescott correlation here on the turn in the 7th and 8th round. Jake says, I'm not high on Cam Akers this year. What's your analysis? My analysis is Cam Akers came out of college in Florida State. He was a 3-down running back. He had a role as a receiver. He goes to the NFL Combine. He shows that he has the size to be a bell cow, and at the same time, he has an elite athletic profile. He was the youngest running back in the 2020 NFL Draft. Scored very well in our prospect model. If you're looking at the breakout that he had at the very end of his rookie season, especially during the NFL playoff stretch that the Rams had, I mean, you had a very good end of rookie season for Cam Akers, where it confirmed our priors that he was a very good running back before that. He was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. He was the number 1 prospect coming out of high school, and I believe the 2017 high school recruiting class. Cam Akers is very exciting, playing an elite level offense in Los Angeles. You had Kyron Williams break his foot earlier in training camp, so I think that he's not someone that we need to worry about taking a passing down role. But it looks like we do have some of these quarterbacks still available in terms of Tom Brady and Dak Prescott, but we had more quarterbacks go off the board than I was even expecting, because Rodgers goes about 20, 30 picks before his ADP as well, alongside Derek Carr, alongside Matthew Stafford. So we're still going to have access to a couple players that I really like. Maybe we get a Chase Edmonds, a Kareem Hunt. I don't think we need a running back on this team whenever we already have Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Cam Akers. But regardless, I think we can make some plays here. Now, Edmonds at 91, FSU for Cole on the clock. They decide to go Christian Kirk. Yeah, I mean, Christian Kirk makes it do a big 92. You have to go ahead. You have to take Kirk. Chris Olave gone. We can't take Brady. We can't take Dak. I think based on Tom Brady making it back to us at this pick, and we could have had the stack with with Mike Evans, the Russell Wilson selection's probably pretty bad. If I'm looking at the wide receivers available to us in this range, I think that you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore as very similar players. The team after us has 5 wide receivers so far. I would be surprised if they go ahead if they draft 2 wide receivers back-to-back. So I think we're going to get one of the Kansas City Chiefs guys on the way back around regardless. Let's grab, in my opinion, the running back where the teardrop's about to happen. Let's take Kareem Hunt here at pick 95. I love the value with Hunt. I'm not going to reach on Dallas Goedert based on the tight end values we've seen falling in this draft. Yeah, Brady goes off the board 96. We can't take another quarterback when we have Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson. Just not going to be possible for us. So we're just going to get whoever's left between Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore, whoever they want to give us. I know, obviously, Sky Moore is going to be getting steamed up based on reports of him lining up in the backfield in Kansas City. Now, I don't necessarily think that actually matters, but I know how the fantasy football community operates. They're going to see that. They are going to steam up Sky Moore's ADP. But let's go ahead. Let's get Marquez Valdez-Scantling here in a best ball format. I think he does have the potential to provide us some random spike weeks, given the offense he's playing in Kansas City. I want to stand by my stance that I am not expecting the departure of Tyreek Hill to just completely collapse the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm still expecting Patrick Mahomes to make this an elite level offense overall. I still think that there's a lot of production to go around. If we're looking at Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's getting paid the most there in Kansas City, getting paid significantly more than Juju Smith-Schuster. It's because the field stretching wide receiver is going to be more valuable for the NFL than they are going to be for your fantasy team. But still, I mean, MVS pick 98, I'm going to be fine with. Nick says, Mason, are you going to do some puppy drafts or are you going to do some 12-team drafts? We're going to fire up some puppy drafts. JN out here hyping up some University of Texas players per usual. But now Kirk Cousins off the board. Guys, Dak Prescott is still available right now. Quarterbacks to go off the board before Dak Prescott in this underdog draft: Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, and Derek Carr. Is this the new price point of Dak Prescott? Dear God, I love this price with Dak. Ramondre Stevenson going pick 99. Ramondre Stevenson, officially a player that goes before Damian Harris. So if Ramondre Stevenson's not the running back 1 in New England, probably a disappointing pick. I was drafting Ramondre Stevenson earlier this offseason whenever he was a 13th round selection. However, having to pay up and take Ramondre Stevenson here in the 9th, like, if you weren't drafting Ramondre Stevenson a month ago, I'm sorry you missed the boat. I do not think this is the price point that you want to be investing into Stevenson at. Odier says, Mason, I've always wondered what your NFL team is. Guys, I've talked about this before, but I genuinely do not have an NFL team. And I'm not saying that as a flex. Trust me, I would love to root for an NFL team. I lived in Tampa last year, so I really wanted to root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I told myself I was going to. They were coming off the Super Bowl win. I was like, it'd be badass if they win a Super Bowl while I'm here. Everybody will go nuts. So I tried to root for the Buccaneers. I'd watch the Buccaneers games, and I would forget that I was supposed to be rooting for them. I was supposed to be a fan of them halfway through, and then be like, okay, well, crap. I genuinely just watch football for the entertainment. I watch it for fantasy football. And I'm not just saying this. Trust me, I wish I was lying to you right now. I wish I had an NFL team that I cared about deeply, but I genuinely don't. I watch the games for fantasy football. I watch the games just as like a TV show. I don't really have a rooting interest. I'll be rooting for players that I accumulate a ton of in fantasy football. So right now, the offense that I think is being devalued, and I'm picking up a lot of their pieces, are the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to be rooting for the Chiefs to put up points. I'm not necessarily going to be rooting for the Chiefs to win football games. I don't care if they lose football games 55-54, but as long as they're getting into the end zone for me. Now, Melvin Gordon goes pick 106, James Cook 107. It looks like these tight ends are not being devalued anymore. I mean, you have Dallas Goedert, Dawson Knox, and Zach Ertz all going pretty early, in my opinion. Like, I'm not paying the price for Dawson Knox here. You look at Kittle 65, Dawson Knox 102, like TJ Hawkinson 94 versus Dawson Knox 102. It's a night and day difference between those players for me. I don't think you're getting nearly enough discount. Okay, so Damian Harris goes off the board, pick 105. Dear God, so everybody and their mom's really expecting Ramondre to be the starter. I don't have a strong take. I'm honestly not drafting either running back at this price point. I don't necessarily think either one of these guys is going to be a league winner. Like if we look at the Kansas City Chiefs running backs, going right back to that offense and looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus Ronald Jones, hell yeah, I'm going to be picking up as many of those running backs as I possibly can when they're going in the 9th, 10th round range. When there's an uncertain backfield, usually you can find a profitable player from it. Like last year, James Conner, Chase Edmonds, and Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Devin Singletary, and Zach Moss. Every one of those backfields had someone that you could profit from. But every single one of those backfields, those running backs were members of elite level offenses. I'm not expecting the New England Patriots to be an elite level offense. So personally, I'm not that excited to go ahead and pay up the price point to draft those running backs like Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris in the 9th round. Okay, so now at this point, I'm not excited about Isaiah Spiller. I personally don't really see exactly why he's being drafted here before like Alexander Madison, for instance. I definitely prefer Alexander Madison over Isaiah Spiller. Now, based on our team construction where we already have Javonte Williams, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, and Kareem Hunt, it's not like we want to be taking running backs here regardless, so we're probably going to be grabbing a couple wide receivers. So this team on the clock, taking it down, they go Rondale Moore. Let's go Kenny Golladay. I'm not drafting Jalen Tolbert here. I understand the thought process with Tolbert. Now that you have the injury to James Washington, Tolbert's almost locked in to 3 wide receiver sets for the entire season. But still, it's a pretty steep price to pay. Rachaad White goes 120. Do we go with Julio Jones here and get the correlation in with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense? We have Mike Evans. Obviously, we're not going to get many games from Julio Jones, but when he does play, he should be elite. I'm not taking Tolbert over Julio. I'm not taking a rookie wide receiver out of South Alabama who goes in the 3rd round of the NFL draft over freaking Julio Jones when his quarterback's Tom Brady. So outside of that, in a vacuum, I easily prefer Madison, though. The issue is we also need a wide receiver. Like, I would be completely fine with Kenneth Gainwell, Michael Carter later on. You know what? We are going to go Alexander Madison. I understand we probably shouldn't be drafting a running back here. We probably should be drafting a receiver. But if we're looking later on at draft boards, like Robbie Anderson, 148, Jameson Williams, 149, DJ Chark, I mean, even a KJ Hamler, I would be completely fine to drafting those guys on the way back around, especially Hamler. We need to remember to get him on this roster. Of course, when we have Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, and Javonte Williams, I think when we're going to get him, say, in the 13th round, it's going to be a completely fine selection. So Tolbert officially off the board, pick 123. We had a draft last night on the live stream where freaking Jalen Tolbert was drafted before Garrett Wilson. Like, I was drafting Tolbert over a month ago, but just at this price, even with the James Washington news, it is legitimately wild. And real quick, if y'all are wanting to see another draft Please make sure you go down there and drop a like in the live stream. I understand maybe it's a Friday night. Maybe y'all don't want us to stream so long. It can save my voice. We can really hit those long live streams during the week. But if we hit 250 likes in the stream, we will fire up another one. Dylan says, loving the streams, my man. Keep it up. No, thank you, my dude. I appreciate it. And MA says, what should be the strategy with drafting? Go running backs first, wide receiver, when to get tight end, and how do you balance it out? You just asked the most loaded fantasy football question of all time. I would say if I have to give you a concise answer with your roster construction, it comes down to understanding your league format and understanding the optimal way to approach said roster construction. If you're playing in a 10-team league where you only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex spot, well, wide receiver is not going to matter there. You don't need to go ahead. You don't need to take a wide receiver early. There's going to be so much depth later on that you're completely fine. If you're playing in a 12-team league where you have to start 3 wide receivers and get an additional flex spot, hell, all of a sudden, it's a mandatory 36 starting wide receivers across the league compared to the first format that we mentioned in only 20. So wide receivers in that format, they are going to slide up draft boards. So you're not going to be as incentivized to go with those running backs early. So it's so hard for me to just go, oh yeah, fantasy football is easy. Draft a running back in the first round, draft a wide receiver. No, if you're breaking it down like that, you're not helping anybody out. Okay, so Naheem Hines, 126, James Robinson, Dameon Pierce. Please get these guys off the board. We had some good news on Dameon Pierce earlier today. I mean, you have the beat reporters in Houston saying that Dameon Pierce is easily the starting running back, which is expected. Like, that's where he's being drafted in fantasy, of course, but he's a day 3 running back. Nothing's guaranteed here. Michael Gallup off the board at 132. I would have been excited about getting Gallup available at 143 or 146. So outside of this, Dotson off the board. The running backs we need to root for them to be drafted. Get Rojo, get Tyler Algier. Please get them off the draft boards. Because if all of a sudden we're looking at a board where the best 6 players available are quarterback and running back, I'm going to hate our team. I'm going to hate what we've done. But we'll figure it out. Tua Tagovailoa goes 137. Is this how I think draft boards should be? I think these tight ends should be falling. I mean, if you're looking at like an Irv Smith Jr. or Cole Kmet, I really liked the value of these players a couple months ago, but they've been steamed up so much that at this point, like, there's no reason to draft Irv Smith Jr. at his ADP at pick 125. We're on 138 right now, so I think now he's becoming appealing whenever you can get someone like Robert Tonyan legitimately with an ADP of 165, so 40 picks later, and the wide receiver drop off from those 2 guys is going to be massive. But Irv Smith Jr. does go off the board at pick 138. After this, Fitchy on the clock, they went with the Los Angeles Chargers stack early on, so interesting to see them take Jarvis Landry over Joshua Palmer. I assumed with the selection that they had of Justin Herbert, they were going to go ahead. They were going to take Joshua Palmer. The teams before us have 6, 7, 6 wide receivers. FSU for Cole still ends up going Joshua Palmer. So it looks like we are not going to grab a wide receiver unless we want to reach on Jamison Williams here, which I don't feel the need to. We are going to go ahead. We're going to draft a tight end that's available to us. We can't take running back here. We can't take quarterback. So it doesn't matter if I like the Deshaun Watson value. It doesn't matter if I like the Ronald Jones value. We can go ahead. We can read the newest Deshaun Watson report. So the NFL's Player Association has responded in writing to the NFL's appeal of blah, 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 recommending a 6-game suspension for Watson. Okay, so a whole lot of nothing. We still don't know. A Russian says, are we going to do another puppy draft? Yeah, I'll fire up another puppy draft if we had 250 likes in the stream. If y'all want us to save our voice and do a live stream on another night, we can easily do that as well. We're going to take Cole Kmet here, pick 143. I think Cole Kmet's ADP is out of control. I'm not drafting Cole Kmet at his ADP of 128, but if we're going to get him 15 picks after alongside all these other tight ends, I think they are going to be very comparable players, and I will be completely fine going with tight end in this range. So we will get whoever makes it to us between Pat Freiermuth and Mike Gesicki at 146. Yeah, so let's go Pat Freiermuth 146. I love the Freiermuth value. I honestly think that these 2 tight ends may be good enough. Now, it's going to depend on how the rest of the draft board falls, but they may be good enough for us to only have to draft 2. We may not need a 3rd. Now, if we get a crazy value at tight end, we are going to go ahead and we're going to take a third. I mean, we just spent a 12th and 13th round selection on these guys. So if you're just looking on average, I mean, from a prototype standpoint, we shouldn't expect a ton of production from this range. But the two names we had at the two values we had, like Cole Kmet usually goes to the beginning of the 11th, and Pat Freiermuth usually goes to the beginning of the 12th. I think we do have some upside. Okay, so we have Trevor Lawrence going to pick 150. Good for us. Like, we just need these quarterbacks. We need these running backs gone. At this point, we are desperate for wide receiver value on the way back around. I mean, right now at wide receiver, we're still extremely weak. Now, yeah, we got Mike Evans in the first. We got Jerry Jeudy in the fourth. I like the Jeudy value now that you have no Tim Patrick. When Jerry Jeudy was going literally at the same exact pick was his ADP before Tim Patrick went down for the year. No, I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't drafting Jerry Jeudy in this range before we got the Patrick news. But at this point, I think it's going to be completely fine. And I think at the same time, hell, he does have an elite level ceiling. If you're looking at the splits of him being the wide receiver one in games where both Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy play, we have Marquez Valdes-Scantling. We have Kenny Golladay as some hopeful spike week wide receiver threes. But we definitely need a lot of wide receivers on this team. Because we went ahead and we drafted 2 elite level quarterbacks, we only have to draft 2 of those guys. We are done at running back, so we can potentially draft 5 more wide receivers. Maybe. No, I think we have to draft 5 more receivers. I don't think we can take another tight end. If we have like a ridiculous value, like if Hunter Henry's available to us at 167, assuming that those tight ends can cycle through our flex spot, we probably would go ahead and take him. But at this point, we are desperate for a wide receiver. Marty says, who is the wide receiver one in New England? If I had to predict who was going to draw the majority of the targets for the New England Patriots, I would say that is most likely going to be Jacoby Myers. However, Jacoby Myers is one of the very few players in the NFL where you can actually project him for an outlier season when it comes to his touchdown rate, but not a good outlier season, not a Mike Evans type season. The exact opposite end of the spectrum. Jacoby Myers doesn't really have any touchdown upside whatsoever. So even though he is the wide receiver one in New England, it's not like I'm coming out here advocating for a bunch of people to draft Jacoby Myers. I mean, I still think there's an outside chance that Devontae Parker were to score more fantasy points just due to where Jacoby Myers runs his routes on the football field, the lack of overall top-end athleticism, limiting his actual touchdown upside. But let's go ahead. Let's pull this up. And I believe our guy in KJ Hamler is already off the draft board, but I can't take KJ Hamler over Pat Freiermuth. We have to take Freiermuth, even on a team where we need wide receiver, even on a team where we have Russell Wilson. So at this point, if Everett were to make it back, maybe we consider Everett at like pick 170 if he falls 15 picks past his ADP. Outside of that, our wide receivers we're going to be looking at. Let's just queue all these guys up, and then we can pick from the queue. And keep in mind, this is best ball, so we don't have to actually submit a starting lineup on a week-to-week basis. That will be done for us. So if we can just get enough of these guys that will have some random spike weeks, we can still have an adequate wide receiver core with quantity over quality. But George Pickens off the board 161. So right now we're really hoping that Deshaun Watson goes. We're hoping that Herbert, Tyrion Davis-Price. I'm surprised that Herbert's not off the board as is with the hype that he's been getting out of Chicago. I mean, specifically with the hype that he's been getting by the fantasy football community. Evil says, do you prefer half PPR or full? Honestly, I'm neutral with it. I would definitely prefer at least some implementation of point per reception, whether that's half or full, rather than non-PPR. Non-PPR, in my opinion, isn't great. On Underdog Fantasy, all of these drafts are half PPR, though. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, please, of course, make sure that you go ahead and you read the rules before you join a draft. Please make sure you do that. But also, you do need to know that it's going to be half PPR, not full PPR. Andrew says, can you do a defense ranking for a PPR format? Okay, thank you so much for clarifying for our defense rankings that we're going to do a PPR format, because I know obviously the Philadelphia Eagles defense, they're going to be coming away with a significantly more amount of receptions compared to what you would have with like the San Francisco 49ers defense. So yeah, it's going to matter if it's a PPR versus half PPR for the defenses. Okay, obviously that's a joke, guys. Please don't think I'm being serious. But Tyrion Davis-Price is a player falling. I like Tyrion Davis-Price beforehand at his price, but the reports coming out of San Francisco aren't great with the running back. It sounds like Jeff Wilson is maybe not just going to be completely removed from this offense. So I may just be taking the L on Tyrion Davis-Price and losing some money on the drafts where we did take him. Oh dear, my man, I'm sorry, I gotta mute you. If you are new to the live stream, the one rule that we have on the live stream is you're not allowed to spam your question over and over again. You're allowed to come in here, tell me I'm stupid, tell me I'm ugly, tell me I have no idea what I'm talking about. All those things may be true, but you're not ruining the live stream if you're typing that in the chat. You are ruining the live stream for everyone else if you're spamming the same question over and over again. Please do not do that. Okay, so now J-Cat's on the clock. Maybe they go Tunyon. If I were them, I would go Robert Tunyon. I mean, they currently only have one tight end as Dallas Goedert. I love the Tunyon value. Of course, I'm saying this selfishly because we desperately need some wide receiver value making it back to us on the way back around, as we only have Mike Evans, Jerry Jeudy, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Kenny Golladay. And Van Jefferson, who we just take at pick 167. Tunyon off the board. So that is going to help us. Let's go ahead. Let's take Marvin Jones. With Marvin Jones here, a very boring selection, but he is a wide receiver that should be playing damn near every single snap in Jacksonville. And if you assume that this offense is going to be better with Doug Peterson rather than freaking Urban Meyer, maybe Marvin Jones can just walk into some fantasy points. We just really need to see some improvement from Trevor Lawrence. I understand everybody, including myself, we all just want to blame the rookie season struggles on Urban Meyer and say, oh yeah, no, Trevor Lawrence is still going to be a great quarterback. It was all Urban Meyer. Guys, Lawrence had not a bad rookie season. He had an atrocious rookie season. The only quarterback that was worse than Trevor Lawrence from an adjusted yards per pass attempt standpoint, literally the only guy, Sam Darnold. That is not a great sign, to say the least, for Trevor Lawrence. I understand, of course, Urban Meyer was possibly the worst NFL head coach of all time. But still, if we're looking historically, it's not a great sign for the man. And real quick, I think we are about to pass 250 likes in the stream, so we will fire up another draft after this one, so don't go anywhere. And if you want to get in our next draft, go to the link in the live chat, go to the link in the comment section. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will also get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, almost 300 pages with literally a $10 deposit on Underdog. And you can hop into these drafts with us, which we do every single night, of course, which are a ton of fun. Doc says downtown Austin is way nicer than downtown Dallas. I don't know where this came from, but yes, I live in Austin. I really do like Austin. I've lived in Austin I went to school here, so I lived here for 4 years. Then, of course, I moved to Tampa, but now I am back. So we are back. Tanner says, puppy or Dalmatian next? The Dalmatians, Phil. That's why I wanted to get as many of those $100 Underdog drafts as I could go in the other night, because just looked at the size of the contest, and so many people draft on Underdog now that they'll go through and they'll release a contest and it will be filled in like 2 days. So like whenever we have something as fun as like the Dalmatian coming out, we have to fire them up as much as we possibly can. This puppy contest, like, let me show you how many people have signed up for the puppy. Like, I'll show it after we finish this draft. I'm going to make our selections at the 16-17 turn, and then we'll go ahead. We'll queue up our 18th round pick. I honestly think that we are almost locked into going with wide receivers here almost regardless. So I guess we could just queue up the rest of this draft and then bail from here. That's what we're going to do. Let me show you all the draft board, and then we'll go fire up the next Underdog draft. I think here, if I was going to regret anything in this draft, maybe it's the Kareem Hunt selection. I would say it's either the Kareem Hunt selection or the Alexander Madison selection. While, yes, I love the value of those players, the issue is we just got boxed out of the wide receiver position. We did that to ourselves. Nobody else did that to us. And now, later on, we are paying the price, having to reach on wide receivers that are pretty damn gross, even in a best ball format. It's hard to get excited about this. But regardless, running back core elite, quarterbacks elite, tight ends okay, probably pretty bad. Wide receivers, probably pretty bad. I'm not a massive fan of this draft. We are going to draft 3 more wide receivers from here. But let me go and fire up another puppy draft. And before we join it, I am going to show y'all how many people have started this. How long has the puppy been live? Has it been live for like a week? 100,000. 100,000 entries in like a week there are going to be 220,000 entries in this total contest. So that's why when Underdog opens one of these up, you got to get in them like that, or they're going to close way too fast. There are so many people drafting on here now. Okay, so we're in here. Let's see. Give us the top 5 pick, please. Yes, my favorite spot. We are picking at 4. Hell yes. We are going to go ahead. We are going to get one of these top 4 players. I'm assuming we're walking away with Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson. I mean, it used to just be almost a guarantee for Justin Jefferson, but at this point, you've had a lot of people pushing Jefferson above Kupp, given A, the excitement around the Jefferson profile overall, and B, I think you can use the tiebreakers, the Matthew Stafford tendonitis, but regardless, we'll see what kind of value we're getting. This is going to be an exciting draft. Please, guys, go down there, drop a like in this live stream if you have not already. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Link in the live chat, link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK to get that 100% deposit match, to get our draft guide, to get our rankings, and to more importantly, have some fun getting these drafts with us. Matthew says, I got the 106 in mine. I'm not in yours. Oh, my man, I'm sorry to hear that. I hate the 106. I hate the 107. I mean, if you're playing in your, say, casual fantasy football league where you don't have to start 3 wide receivers, then maybe it's kind of whatever. Maybe you're still excited to go ahead and to draft Austin Eckler there. Maybe you're still excited to draft whatever running back you love. Maybe you're a Derrick Henry guy. Doesn't really matter. In my opinion, all those players are in a similar tier. But on Underdog, I am just really wanting to have access to one of these elite level wide receivers that we are going to get at 4, unless J.K. Ooper. I thought he was going to potentially pass on Jonathan Taylor. We were going to get JT at pick 4, but I am 100% taking Jonathan Taylor at that price point every single time. Back-to-back drafts today with Christian McCaffrey at 1. Let me know what y'all think about this in the live chat. Let me know what y'all think. But I'm looking at Christian McCaffrey and saying, I understand the upside play, and I agree. The majority of times people are trying to predict injuries in fantasy football. They're being dumb. They're being way too overconfident with their ability to predict something as random as fantasy football injuries. But it's Christian McCaffrey versus Jonathan. Like, let's go ahead. Let's look at how many games Jonathan Taylor has missed. Okay, so Jonathan Taylor, through his NFL career, his rookie season, he plays 15 games. His second year, he plays 17 games. So Jonathan Taylor, if my math is correct, 32 out of 33 possible games played. And we go over to college, Jonathan Taylor plays 14, 13 in 14 games. Like, there's just no injury risk whatsoever with this Jonathan Taylor profile. And if something were to change with the usage of Nyheim Hines, where Hines maybe isn't involved as a pass catcher as much as he was before because Jonathan Taylor's a more efficient pass catching running back out of the backfield, all of a sudden, JT and Christian McCaffrey have comparable ceilings, even though definitely I'll admit Christian McCaffrey has a higher one. But I'm not on board taking CMC at pick 1. Mr. Right now says, these drafts feel quicker than the time it takes to say my man. 100%. I think that's a pretty good call out. Derrick Henry makes it to pick 11. I know a lot of people just now watching this probably going, oh my God, Derrick Henry pick 11. That's the craziest thing ever. I agree it's good value on Derrick Henry. Like, I'm excited to take Derrick Henry there as well. But on Underdog Fantasy, Derrick Henry falls to pick 11. He falls to pick 10 very often. I think Derrick Henry has an ADP of pick 9 at this point. So if you're joining Underdog for the first time, please don't all of a sudden go ahead and start drafting Derrick Henry at pick 3 or 4. Because if you want Derrick Henry, my friend, you will be able to get him in a ton of these drafts. You'll be able to get him at pick 6, 7, 8, almost every single draft. Now, Joe Mixon goes at 13. CeeDee Lamb, 14. Okay, so these wide receivers getting pushed up a little bit with Deebo Samuel here over some of the quality running backs. I mean, running backs still available. Swift, Saquon Barkley, and Aaron Jones. I mean, we had DeAndre Swift almost fall to us with the Jonathan Taylor start in the last draft. As I said, DeAndre Swift is falling a lot more in these drafts than he was before. Like, DeAndre Swift used to be going there pick 13 and pick 12 very often. Self-Made Fantasy says Jonathan Taylor never missed a practice in high school or college, missed his first and only practice last year. If that is true, which I can't confirm, but if it is, that is one of the coolest stats I probably have ever heard. Now, do we get Mark Andrews? Hell yes. We were going to get Mark Andrews on a Justin Jefferson start. Love taking Andrews at pick 21 because A, Mark Andrews can be the tight end 1 overall in fantasy like we saw last year. Mark Andrews does have that elite level ceiling. And B, at the same time, with Mark Andrews here, this is a tight end that allows us to take Lamar Jackson at pick 52 and be very excited about that Lamar Jackson value. You know, I'm not a massive fan of the wide receivers that are going at the very top of the 5th round compared to those elite level tight ends and those elite level quarterbacks. But Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams, A.J. Brown, all off the board. Pretty standard. Hopefully we get Nick Chubb on the way back around. Nick Chubb's been a running back that I've taken a ton in the 3rd round on Underdog. Okay. Let's move this down. DJ Moore, 26. So we're either going to get Chubb or Kamara. Chubb off the board, so we're going to get Alvin Kamara. No worries at all. I mean, here with Alvin Kamara, it does look more and more likely that he's going to play all 17 games. And if you're getting 3rd round Alvin Kamara with the 17-game schedule, now that he's getting his court dates pushed back, which was always the assumption, which was going to happen, you can be very excited about this. I mean, we potentially have the wide receiver 1 overall. We potentially have the tight end 1 overall. I mean, at least he was the tight end 1 overall last year. And we have the running back 1 overall from 2020. So I think this team does have access to a crap ton of upside. Michael Pittman goes to pick 32. We are on the clock in our last pick in our other draft. Can we go Tyquan Thornton? No, this... Okay, we're going to go with the 3rd tight end in that other draft. Hopefully that wide receiver core can make it through, but it probably can't. That other draft we did was probably not the best. Okay, so we have James Conner, 34. I'm honestly a little surprised to see, and you know it pains me to say this. Like, I have no Courtland Sutton. It would not help me at all if Courtland Sutton had his ADP rise. It would just guarantee that I'm going into the season with 0% Sutton and have access to an outcome where I lose a lot of money if he does have that elite level breakout. But Sutton was going at like pick 34, 35, 33 before the Tim Patrick injury. Guys, Tim Patrick led the Denver Broncos in receiving touchdowns over the past 2 years. Like, Tim Patrick being removed from this offense is massive for these Denver Broncos pass catchers. Trust me, y'all know I'm not a Sutton guy, but if y'all were drafting like Sutton at 34, 35 beforehand, I'm surprised that he's not steamed up even more than that, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying you should draft him there. I'm not drafting him there. I've clearly been on record saying that. But just based on the Courtland Sutton hype I've tried to push back against, it's seemed a little bit aggressive. Okay, now Breece Hall goes to pick 39. Now we have a ton of wide receivers available to us. I'm not going to be too interested in Justin Herbert here at pick 45. If Herbert were to be available to us, we just go ahead and we pass. Terry McLaurin off the board at pick 40. I think there are a couple different plays that we could try to make. Jerry Jeudy, 41. I would have been excited about getting Jeudy at the 409. I wasn't really drafting Jeudy at the end of the 4th before the Tim Patrick injury, but honestly, at this price point, I think Jerry Jeudy is completely draftable. Now, Jimmy's on the clock. Jimmy's gone Aaron Jones, Jamar Chase, and Keenan Allen. A very standard draft so far. Maybe they just go ahead, they take Hollywood Brown. I would be fine if we get Hollywood Brown making it back to us at pick 45. We're going to pass on Justin Herbert because we really want Lamar Jackson to make it to us at the beginning of the 5th round. If I'm remembering correctly, J.K. Ooper is a part of the flock. I've done a lot of drafts with them. I think they probably end up going Lamar. And of course, we want to be able to stack Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews. But considering this is a puppy draft and there are going to be 200 teams in this overall contest, we need to shoot for the highest ceiling possible. I think Hollywood Brown will be a unique pick here. And real quick, if you don't know what I mean by there being 200 teams in this, 200,000 teams in this contest. So if you enter like a tournament on Underdog Fantasy, like if you enter the puppy draft, they also have regular leagues, but we're doing a tournament draft here. So first place in this 12-team league and second place in this 12-team league is going to get paid, but a small percentage of every league pot is set aside for the fantasy football tournament at the very end of the season. And there you have some serious prizes up for grabs. I mean, with the $25 buy-in Best Ball Mania, it's a $2 million first place. With the $5 buy-in Puppy, it's a $200,000 first place. So, of course, you need to worry about winning your 12-team league, getting second place in your 12-team league. So, A, you get paid, and then B, you can make the tournament at the very end of the season. At the same time, I think we also need to keep in mind that overall contest format and try to shoot for the stars with some of these picks, like taking Hollywood Brown when he falls 5 picks past his ADP. Let's go ahead. Let's take Akers here. I saw someone in the chat saying that Sean McVay said he would want multiple starting running backs. I just realistically don't know if that's going to be possible there in Los Angeles. Like, let's take Cam Akers at pick 52. I was a really big fan of Cam Akers coming out of Florida State. How, like we were talking about in the last draft, this was formerly the #1 high school prospect in that 2017 class. Checked every single box at the NFL Combine, elite level athlete, has the size, was a good pass catcher at Florida State, gets drafted in the second round of the NFL draft, the youngest running back in the 2020 NFL draft. He has that breakout at the very end of his rookie season. There are so many positives with the Cam Akers profile. And on top of this, he's playing in one of the best offenses in the NFL in Los Angeles. Now, of course, you need to devalue him because of the torn Achilles. That's why we're taking him in the 5th round here and not in the 2nd round. Remember, after his rookie season, after the elite level breakout, Cam Akers was a late 1st, early 2nd round pick before he tore his Achilles. So, let me please get that out there. That I understand Cam Akers has a torn Achilles, and you need to be concerned with that. There is inherent risk. He isn't the same exact player he was coming into the NFL. But at the same time, that risk is baked into his price here in the 5th round. That's the reason he's going in the 5th and why he's not going at the end of the 1st like he was going into year 2. Okay, so Mahomes goes 55. Kyler Murray goes 57. Looks like we have a little bit of a run on wide receivers, but we have Jefferson. We have Hollywood Brown. I'm not dying to grab more of these wide receivers. So Metcalf off the board, 59. Solid value on DK Metcalf. Obviously, it's a horrendous situation. But if we're going to be honest, how much better is the situation for Darnell Mooney? Both wide receivers should be able to be target hogs in their respective offenses. Neither offense should be that good. Both teams probably are going to look to slow the pace of play and not run too many plays per game. And I think we could say DK Metcalf is probably a better wide receiver than Darnell Mooney. I know there are some Darnell Mooney fans, but I think it's a safe assumption to say Metcalf is a significantly more talented player. So Jalen Hurts, Michael Thomas off the board. So it looks like these running backs are falling. Dobbins is still available. Montgomery's still available. Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell. But a lot of times you get Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell falling to you at the end of the 6th. Yeah, David Montgomery finally off the board at pick 62. I think you have to be very excited about that start if you're Kevin. I don't love the Travis Etienne 3rd round selection. I'd probably go Mike Williams there. But like starting Derrick Henry, CeeDee Lamb through the first 2 rounds, then getting 4th round Jalen Waddle, 5th round DK Metcalf, 6th round David Montgomery. Very exciting. Okay. Amari Cooper off the board, 66. I'd be fine taking Elijah Mitchell, Josh Jacobs. I'm not taking A.J. Dillon here. We would go wide receiver. At this point, let's go ahead. Let's take Adam Thielen. Yeah, we're taking Adam Thielen over A.J. Dillon. I don't love the price point of A.J. Dillon here when he's going to go right next to Elijah Mitchell and Josh Jacobs as a running back that realistically doesn't have it in the range of outcomes to be the passing down running back in his offense outside of an injury. And with Aaron Jones from a per game standpoint. Of course, if you include the games where Aaron Jones missed, maybe the stats look a little bit different. But in games where they both played, Aaron Jones did still have the role in the red zone for the Green Bay Packers, which of course is going to be where the majority of the high value touches are. So for that reason, I'm not a massive fan of taking 6th round A.J. Dillon. If A.J. Dillon were to fall to us after some of these receivers, all of a sudden I would be more interested. But Kadarius Toney continuing to rise in these drafts. Like, where Tony's going before Devonta Smith, that's probably where I draw the line. After this, if we're looking quarterback, we wouldn't have any correlation with these guys. We could take Burrow here, get Tyler Boyd on the way back around in the 11th. Maybe that would be the play to go Burrow. Just because at running back and wide receiver, okay, no, Lance is off, so we're going to get Devonta Smith. Okay, thank God. Oh, it was going to be ugly. It was going to be a real ugly if we had to decide to go ahead and to take Joe Burrow. So far, I actually really like this team. I mean, if we're looking at our wide receiver core, we do have that Minnesota Vikings correlation. We have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. We also have Hollywood Brown and Devonta Smith. If we're looking at some running backs, I think we have running backs that have access to elite level ceilings with both Alvin Kamara and Cam Akers. And if we're looking at our tight end, we have the tight end 1 overall in fantasy last year with Mark Andrews. So really the only position we're missing out at this point is going to be quarterback. Of course, at this time, these elite level quarterbacks are coming off the board, so we are maybe not going to be in a position where we can go ahead and get an elite level guy at the end of the 8th. We saw Dak Prescott fall after pick 100 in the last draft, but the last draft was a little unique. We'll figure it out. Okay, so Allen Lazard goes 81. Allen Lazard just still remains one of the most overdrafted players in fantasy football. Christian Kirk off the board, 82. And guys, if you have not gone down there to drop a like on the stream yet, please make sure you do so. If we get 500 likes on the stream, we are going to fire up another draft after this one. We got 1,000 likes on the live stream a couple nights ago. Let's get this one over 500. And also, if you have not heard, if we hit 90,000 subscribers before the season starts, which is a possibility with things are ramping up here over the last month. Obviously, this is when all the casual people come in. We will go ahead. We will do a 24-hour live stream of me drafting. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how much pre-workout I'll have to take through a 24-hour period to stay awake, stay alert, and be able to live stream. But if you want to see that, make sure you're dropping likes on our videos. Make sure you're dropping likes on our live stream so we get recommended to some new viewers. Even if you are already subscribed, you can still help us out by dropping those likes. Okay, so we have Hawkinson off the board, 86. John says, what are the red and black shields? The red and black shields, essentially, if you draft a crap ton on Underdog, you're going to get a shield. Like, I think it's after 500 drafts, you get a white and black shield. After 1,000 drafts, you get a red and white shield. It's essentially experience badges. But looks like we are going to have a ton of running backs coming back to us here at the end of the 8th round. So probably a pretty good turn that we had at the 6-7 with the combination of Adam Thielen and Devonta Smith. Why is everybody trashing Team 1 here? What is Team 1 doing to y'all? What is Team 1 doing? I'll say I hate the Rashad Bateman selection. I understand that you take Lamar Jackson, you want to get the correlation in there, but you shouldn't have taken Lamar Jackson. You should have let me get Lamar Jackson on my Mark Andrews team. I'm not a massive fan of Bateman at this price point. I'll definitely say that. I mean, Ayuk, I'm not in love with at 73. I don't necessarily understand the thought process of taking Ayuk there. I probably prefer Devonta Smith. But I see someone in the chat going, DeAndre Hopkins, when he's suspended 6 games, trash. I hate comments like this. It is so simple-minded. Say, oh, Hopkins suspended 6 games. Horrible, horrible selection to ever take him. At some point, you have to take a player. If DeAndre Hopkins wasn't suspended 6 games, he wouldn't be going at the 701. He'd probably be going in the late 2nd round. So, yeah, he's suspended 6 games. That's like saying, oh, DeAndre Hopkins on the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, everybody freaking knows that. That's why he's being drafted in the 7th and not drafted at the end of the 2nd. Now, at this point, I'm not taking Rashad Penny. I understand Penny should be the starter at the very beginning of the season. He'll be in a horrendous situation. Kenneth Walker will eventually work his way in there to be the starter at the back half of the season for the Seattle Seahawks. And Rashad Penny's not getting involved as a pass catcher, so it's not like Rashad Penny can be a player hitting your starting lineup if he is in a committee. Rashad Penny would need to be a full-time starter to actually hit your lineup. But let's go ahead. Let's take Kareem Hunt. I like Kareem Hunt. Elite offensive line, has averaged a top 24 running back finish over the past 3 years. And of course, the contingency value if something were to occur to Nick Chubb. Okay, so Dallas Goedert, 97, Stafford, 98. Of course, we still need a quarterback. I wouldn't have taken Stafford here. I think we probably double dip receiver. If we're looking at wide receiver, I would probably end up taking someone I know y'all won't like. See what J.K. Ooper does. He goes Ramondre Stevenson. Let's think this through. Our next pick's going to be 117. Players that are going to be on the board in that range. Guys like Tolbert, Rachaad White. We do need Kirk Cousins in this range. Kirk Cousins will be our pick at 117. And then beyond that, I do like the wide receivers there with like Christian Watson. So we are just talking down on Rashad Penny and why we decided to take Kareem Hunt over him. I still don't like the ADP of Rashad Penny when he's going to pick 90, but if I'm going to do 500 of these drafts and we get Rashad Penny in no man's land about 10 picks past his ADP, we're going to take him. If I weren't to take Rashad Penny there, I'd probably go ahead and draft a wide receiver in Tyler Lockett, but I'm looking at draft boards saying I probably prefer the combination of Rashad Penny and Christian Watson in the 11th round versus Tyler Lockett and whatever running back we'd be looking at in the 11th. Self-Made Fantasy says, from October 28th, 2021, one thing Jonathan Taylor said today, he's never missed a practice in high school, college, or in the pros. A COVID close contact forced him to miss the second Tennessee game. Poor guy. Poor guy. I mean, if you were to say, go into a lab, right? Like, somehow you're somewhere in the far distant future, and you're like, you know what? Our CRISPR technologies at this point are so advanced, we can create the perfect human. And what do we want this human to do? We want this human to be an NFL running back. What you would do is you would look at Jonathan Taylor and every little piece, every little aspect of Jonathan Taylor, you would match one for one, and that's what would step out of a lab. Like, Jonathan Taylor was made to be a running back in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor has the perfect measurables. Like, he's Saquon Barkley in terms of his athletic profile. He's not as good of a pass catcher, but at the same time, he's been significantly more durable up until this point. Of course, it's very hard to predict injuries in fantasy, though. Okay. H.M. Barley says, Mason, love your channel. You have got me hooked on best ball. I hope to get into a draft with you soon. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. And I've had a ton of positive comments, guys. That's why I'm trying to go ahead and fire up as many of these drafts, because I know pretty much every single person watching this live stream has probably signed up for Underdog Fantasy because of us. And I know a lot of y'all, pretty much every single one of y'all, are enjoying having those drafts in the public lobby. Like, that's all I do literally every single day. If I'm at the gym, if I'm anywhere away from my computer, if I'm on my phone, I am in a fantasy football draft on Underdog. I'm trying to get these live streams going 4 or 5 hours every single night so we can draft together. I want to draft as many teams as I can with y'all. Kevin says, are we doing another one tonight? If we hit 500 likes on the live stream tonight, we will get a third draft going. I think we've had, over the past 3 days, 2 live streams with 4+ drafts a night, which is ridiculous. And like I said, I'm live streaming every single night until the season starts, Underdog drafts, and then from there, we're live streaming every single night Q&A. So please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you know when we go live. Okay, so it looks like Singletary falling pretty far here. Tyler Boyd falling as well. We were talking about potentially taking Burrow a little bit earlier on so we could get Tyler Boyd on the way back around in the 10th round, but we don't take Burrow, so hell, we're looking at Boyd now. Kirk Cousins off the board, 112. Why does this team take Cousins? Who the hell do they have? They reach on Kirk Cousins at his ADP, not having another Minnesota Viking on their roster. Why the hell would you do that? I can't even be mad because I feel like you just ruin your team. What's the real difference between Kirk Cousins and Mac Jones in the 15th round if you don't have a Minnesota Viking? Okay, so we have Devin Singletary, 114, finally off the board. Isaiah Spiller gone, thank God. There are two players in a clear tier for me. After the Cordell Patterson tier, I think you do see a significant fall off. I don't consider Rondale Moore in the same range. The issue is taking Cordell Patterson here. He will 100% be the last running back that we draft. Like once we have Alvin Kamara, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, Rashad Penny, and Cordell Patterson, I feel like we can't take another running back. So we are exclusively tight end, a wide receiver, and quarterback from here. But we are going to have to go ahead. We are going to have to draft 3 quarterbacks because we miss out on those elite level guys, unlike the last draft. So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, just getting the running back position out of the way at this point. But I do think you see a significant tier drop off after Cordell Patterson. Patterson won't be as good as he was last year, but hell, he was the running back 15 on a points per game basis last year, and he's being drafted next to the running back 40 this year. Irv Smith Jr. not on the board for me. I honestly think that we may end up going Justin Fields. We don't have any Chicago Bears pass catchers, but at the same time, we can get Velus Jones Jr. or Byron Pringle in the 18th round. And if we're looking at Justin Fields, he is a quarterback that has rushing upside. So we can at least see a path for him to have some massive spike weeks. Like maybe if he can just turn into a Jalen Hurts type quarterback, but a poor man's version of that, where maybe instead of getting 60 rushing yards in a game, he gets 45 rushing yards in a game. It doesn't matter how bad the Chicago Bears are. It doesn't matter how bad even Justin Fields is. He can still be productive from a fantasy football standpoint. I have spent the past 2 years clowning on Justin Fields. Like y'all know, last year I thought Justin Fields was one of the most overdrafted players in fantasy, specifically in dynasty fantasy football. I thought his value was preposterous. But at this point, when we need a quarterback that has access to a ceiling, I think Justin Fields does, specifically because he's rushing. Okay, so Julio Jones, 127. Alexander Madison, 126. At this point, we really want these running backs off the board. I mean, if we're looking at the rest of this draft, it looks like nobody's going with a super zero running back approach. It looks like nobody went through the first 8 rounds or so and only took one running back. Like, they have been balanced teams up into this point. I don't know if that means we should be more excited about the potential of a running back making it back to us or less excited. Regardless, I just want some wide receiver value. Guys, please give me some wide receiver value. I don't know what we're doing here. Joshua Palmer off the board, 129. Darrell Henderson, 130. Good. Get these running backs off. And if you do think that it is going to be a pure running back by committee in Los Angeles, you better be taking as much 11th round Darrell Henderson as you can get your hands on. Like, if you really think that Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers are going to split this 50-50, please, I encourage you, go get as much Henderson as you possibly can. Now, I'm personally not saying, oh, Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers are splitting 50. That's why I'm drafting Cam Akers in the 5th round in back-to-back drafts here. Now, after this, what are we looking at? KJ Osborne, 132. Osborne wouldn't have been a wide receiver I would have even drafted, because if we're considering the fact that, hell, we already took Justin Jefferson, we took Adam Thielen with this build, it would be very difficult for us to go ahead and take KJ Osborne without having Kirk Cousins on that team, because if somehow Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and KJ Osborne all return value on our price points, then easily Kirk Cousins would be a league-winning quarterback. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying if that scenario were to play out, that would be the case. That's why I'm not inclined to take Irv Smith Jr., because if we have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Irv Smith Jr. on the same team, how do those players become league winners without Kirk Cousins having a monstrous season? And in a tournament format, that is something we need to think about. Okay, so Gallup off the board, 136. Rojo, the best player according to ADP. Pat Frymuth here, Naheem Hines as well. We can't take a running back. Like, we're just done at running back. Maybe that was a mistake in taking Cordell Patterson, but to be honest, I'm kind of fine with it. I think we're going to end up going with the tight end here almost regardless. Pat Frymuth off the board, never mind. Maybe we spoke too soon. I'm used to going with the tight end here, pick 1 to 41, based on the guys that usually fall to this range. Chano's son on the clock. They have 2 quarterbacks. They go Ronald Jones. Debbie here, Josh Allen in the first, Elijah Mitchell, Tony Pollard, Isaiah Spiller, Alexander Madison at running back. So they waited until the 6th round to grab their first RB. Jimmy's on the clock. They go Gesicki. So it looks like we're not going to be taking a tight end. I don't love the Jarvis Landry price point, but we just need a wide receiver that's going to come in and get targets. Like, that's what this team desperately needs. We have the elite level tight end in Mark Andrews. We have a very good running back core. We have respectable receivers with Jefferson, Hollywood, Adam Thielen, Devonta Smith, but we just need more of these wide receivers. And in terms of Deshaun Watson, we can get Deshaun Watson later. Like, there's no reason for us to take Watson out of his ADP right now. I've seen Watson fall 20, 30 picks in these drafts. Jameson Williams, Nico Collins, both off the board. Daniel Jones off at 146. We are going to go ahead. We are probably just going to reach on a player. According to ADP, it looks like a very bad selection, but in reality, I think just the ADP is not caught up at this point. Yeah, Jameis Winston off the board. Let's go ahead. We are going to take KJ Hamler. With Hamler, I understand. Obviously, we're reaching. I mean, we can't even scroll. We have to search his name. But love the talent profile coming out of Penn State. This was a wide receiver that was selected in the 2nd round of that 2020 NFL draft. And y'all know we were talking about Cam Akers being the youngest running back in that draft. Well, KJ Hamler was the youngest wide receiver in that draft. He was an elite level athlete. He should be a field stretching option. He should be almost an every down player with the Tim Patrick injury now and an elite level Denver Broncos offense. We were drafting a lot of KJ Hamler before the Tim Patrick injury, of course, much later than this, but because of his talent profile. So now when Tim Patrick goes down, if we were excited before, we have to be excited now. We have to take Hamler here, 148. Okay. So everybody guessing what fan I am of what NFL team. Guys, we literally talked about this earlier in the live stream. I wish I was a fan of an NFL team. I truly do. I'm not saying this to be like, oh, look at me, I'm Mr. Cool Guy. No, it sucks. I wish I was a fan of the Cowboys, the Texans, or something like that. But no, I'm truly not a fan of any NFL team. I just like watching the games. I like rooting for my guys in fantasy. To be completely honest, if I go through and look at how many Kansas City Chiefs I've drafted this year, like let me check my completed drafts on Underdog real quick. I'm probably going to be a Kansas City Chiefs team this year. I'm a fan this year just because we have so many of these guys. Like I have 19% Ronald Jones. 19% Patrick Mahomes, 14% Ronald Jones, 13% Kelsey, 12% Hardman, 11% CEH, 10% Sky Moore, 9% MVS. So I am overweight, legitimately overweight with every single Kansas City Chief player outside of Juju Smith-Schuster. So this year, I'll be rooting a lot for the Kansas City Chiefs, at least to put up points. I don't give a damn if their defense is the worst defense in NFL history. I would actually like their defense to be the worst defense in NFL history and give us some shootouts so my guys can score some fantasy points. But in terms of rooting interest I have with teams, I'm lame. I know. I don't really have any. Okay. But real quick, guys, we are 65 likes away from firing up another draft after this one. So if you want to see another draft, make sure you go down there, drop a like on the live stream. If you want to get in the next draft, make sure you go and click the link in the live chat, the link in the description of the video. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy so they match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You also get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide that is 300 pages of information in it. Make sure you go take advantage of that ASAP. But David Njoku off the board, 162. Caden out here in the chat. Happy to see you out, Caden. Guys, Caden is the real MVP. Every time I send out a tweet, legitimately, every single time I send out a tweet, within 5 seconds, Caden's already liked it. The real MVP. But at this point, who do we go with? I'm honestly going to... I think when we reach on wide receiver in the last round, let's go ahead. Let's just get a tight end that I'm fine with. Like Higbee here is going to be very comparable for me to a lot of other tight ends that went earlier. Guys like Irv Smith Jr., Cole Kmet. I actually prefer just waiting on these tight ends if we're not going to get an elite level guy until we're looking at the Robert Tonyan, Tyler Higbee, Pat Frymuth tier. I'm not taking the Cole Kmet, the Irv Smith Jr., the Zach Ertz, the Dawson Knox early. Hayden Hurst goes 169. We're not taking Tyrion Davis-Price. He's definitely coming down in these drafts based on the reports out of San Francisco. Like I said earlier in the live stream, I was drafting a lot of Tyrion Davis-Price. I mean, honestly, even a little bit higher than this a couple weeks ago. But based on the reports, we can't ignore them, especially with us getting nonstop reports last year saying, oh, okay, yeah, don't want to tell you this, but Trey Sermon is bad. Trey Sermon is not going to be the starter. Trey Sermon is not going to have a large role in San Francisco. Some people ignored those reports out of San Francisco, and they ended up losing a lot of money because of so. Do we go Jamison Crowder or Van Jefferson? Both players falling a ton in drafts right now. I don't really know. We definitely need a wide receiver. They both have the same bye week. We already have a crap ton of players on week 7 bye. It almost doesn't matter. I'm going to go Jamison Crowder here for the one reason. And then I think a lot of the pain felt with the Jamison Crowder ADP with the probability that Isaiah McKenzie actually wins the slot job. I think that has already been priced in, and Jamison Crowder has fallen enough in these drafts. If we're looking at Van Jefferson, I think it's in the range of outcomes for his ADP to fall a little bit farther. I'm completely fine with Van Jefferson at this price point. Please don't use my explanation of this as a reasoning and why you shouldn't draft Van Jefferson where he goes in these drafts. But I'm just looking at the outside risk in what happens if we get another report with this Matthew Stafford elbow injury and people just get a little bit more spooked and move these Los Angeles Rams players down even further. What happens if we get another report with the Van Jefferson knee injury? What happens if we have Odell Beckham Jr. sign with the Los Angeles Rams? There are so many different outside type scenarios. I mean, you can even have a Tutu Atwell buzz piece coming out of training camp with Van Jefferson missing time that I think Jefferson could see his ADP fall a little bit more. With that being said, I'm fine with this price point at pick 175. Derek says, yo, I was out of dinner. Are you doing another? Yes, sir. If we had 500 likes on the stream, we were going to fire up another one after this. We're like 30 away, so I'm assuming we're going to hit 500 likes on the stream. I mean, we have 3 rounds left, but we will get another draft after this one. Thank you for coming out, my man. I appreciate you. Now, AJ Green goes 181. Let's see. At this point, we definitely still need to add 2 more quarterbacks. I mean, we take Justin Fields. We're hoping that Fields is going to provide us some random spike weeks based on his rushing upside, as we've already discussed. I think this team here, are they on auto draft? No, I don't think they are. Donovan Peoples-Jones at 162. Okay, I just got on the clock in a slow draft I'm in right now. Let me make this pick. This is a Dalmatian draft, so this is a $100 buy-in. And in the 3rd round, we are going to take Javonte Williams. We've started that draft. CMC, Javonte Williams, and T. Higgins. And then in our $1,000 draft, we were still 12 picks away. How are we still 12 freaking picks away? God, these slow drafts are just... I hate the slow drafts. I hate them, hate them, hate them, hate them. But anyway, Corey Davis goes 185. We're not looking at running back. Doesn't matter how much Gus Edwards, how much Marlon Mack, how much Darrell Williams falls. Whenever we went this running early at the running back position, we're just completely done. If we're looking at some quarterbacks that we can get correlation in here with, Tannehill doesn't correlate with anybody. I mean, I don't think we have a single pass catcher. Maybe you make the argument Cordell Patterson with Marcus Mariota. But we don't have a single pass catcher for a quarterback that's not already been drafted. So if we were to take a quarterback in this range at pick 189 between Tannehill and Jared Goff, it's just going to be our favorite quarterback out of the group. I think that guy is going to be Jared Goff for us. Let's go ahead. Let's take Jared Goff as our quarterback too. I mean, with Goff, he has an elite offensive line. He has Amon-Ra St. Brown. He has Jameson Williams. He has TJ Hawkinson. He has DeAndre Swift. He has DJ Chark. I could realistically see Jared Goff being a player that has a very good advance rate without any other Detroit Lions players becoming true league winners, because there are already a lot of skill positional guys being priced relatively high in drafts in Detroit right now. Where I feel like Jared Goff's that one quarterback where if we break down the math between where those pass catchers are being drafted and where the actual quarterback is, doesn't make a ton of sense. D-Reg says, ever hit on one of the daily NFL underdog contests? No, because during the season, I just have so much on my plate where I'm doing these live streams every single night, doing Q&A, answer and question for about 4 hours. So to be honest, I haven't had the time for those drafts, but maybe we try to make some time. Maybe we try them out this upcoming season. Let me know if y'all like the daily draft contest with Underdog. I know they are very popular, but I don't have a ton of experience with them. Okay, outside of this, let's think through this next pick. Okay. I think if we're looking at quarterbacks, I'll get Baker, Carson Wentz on the way back around. If we don't get them, we can get Marcus Mariota. We have Cordell Patterson. We'll get another quarterback. You know what? What we should do is let's take Curtis Samuel here in the 17th round, and that will give us some correlation if we decide to take Carson Wentz in the last round. Scott says, Jefferson over Kupp now with the Stafford elbow issues, not looking back. I'm not going to lie. I was adamantly disagreeing with people saying Jefferson over Kupp. Literally just like 3 or 4 days ago, I was going through and talking about this in depth, saying, well, yes, I understand if you're looking at the profile of a Justin Jefferson, we want to get extremely excited about that long-term upside. And I understand the thought process of wanting to decide to put Justin Jefferson above Cooper Kupp as the wide receiver 1. But in reality, I was not going to be able to do it because the Cooper Kupp season he's coming off of. But now, with the Matthew Stafford elbow injury, I do think it's enough to use that as a tiebreaker where I agree with you. Let's go ahead. Let's just put Justin Jefferson at wide receiver 1. Now, it's tough because, like, let me pull this up. It is freaking ridiculous, guys. And I repeat, ridiculous. But Cooper Kupp last year had 145 receptions, almost 2,000 receiving yards, 1,947 receiving yards. And if we want to look at the playoffs as well, in the playoffs, the man averaged 120 receiving yards per game. He averages 114 during the regular season, 120 during the playoffs. In aggregate, you had almost 2,500 receiving yards for Cooper Kupp. You had 22 receiving touchdowns. And you had how many receptions? Like almost 180. Like, it's truly a special season that we're looking at from Cooper Kupp. But at the same time, I do think in the range of outcomes, it probably does make sense to go Jefferson at 1. If we are somewhat concerned about the Matthew Stafford injury. But it looks like we did just hit 500 likes on the live stream. So I'm going to go ahead. We just showed off the entire board. I'm going to queue up some of these quarterbacks. We'll get Carson Wentz off the top, Marcus Mariota, then Davis Mills. These will be our 4 guys we queue up. We're going to get one of these quarterbacks. Doesn't really matter too much. I think we already covered the roster construction in depth. Let's go ahead. Let's just jump into this next puppy draft. Let's see how many spots are available. We have 8 spots in this draft, so I'm assuming that we're going to get a decent amount of y'all in here. And this will be a very tough draft room. Oh my gosh. Let's see what this is going to be. Give us top 5. Top 5. Oh, crap. We are at 12. Ladies and gentlemen, not too excited about pick 12. In my opinion, it's probably better than 6. It's probably better than 7. But still at 12, this may put us in a situation where we have to take Courtland Sutton. I wouldn't be too excited about it. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't even want to think about it. I'm going to cause myself to have a panic attack. But I have told myself that Sutton is now a fine selection in the 4th round with the Tim Patrick injury. And if I am ever going to select Courtland Sutton for the first time this year, it needs to be on a live stream. It has to be on a stream. Let me see what quarterback we ended up getting. We ended up getting Carson Wentz in that other draft. I actually really like 18th round Carson Wentz. It fits our team. We are able to stack up with Curtis Samuel. I actually really like how that other team turned out. It's going to take Justin Fields to really become a good rushing quarterback for that to be put together, but still, I like it. Now, let me know if you're in this live draft right now. Please go to the chat. Just say, hey, I'm in the draft with you. I am pick X. Oh, J.K. Hooper's out here, of course. He's pick 2. So just go to the live chat. Also let the other people in the live chat know that you're in this draft, know what pick you're at. And if you want to get into our next draft, make sure you go to the link in the description, the link into the live chat, the link in the comment section, and use promo code FLOCK to sign up for Underdog Fantasy. We do real money fantasy football drafts every single night. And when you use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You're going to get our 2022 fantasy football rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Yes, you're getting a 300-page draft guide with a $10 deposit that they match dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially you're getting paid to play fantasy football, paid to take my draft guide, and you're going to be able to use that against us and crush us and embarrass us in these live drafts. Okay. But Jefferson goes at 2 before CMC. I still think those running backs are in their own tier, but it is what it is. Now, Travis Kelce goes at 10. I'm fine. Just whatever 2 we get between Devontae Adams, Najee Harris, and CeeDee Lamb. Whatever they want to give us. WTF lock on the clock. Where are they going? They go Devontae Adams. We're going to take Najee Harris as well as CeeDee Lamb. With Lamb, obviously, this does seem very early for him. But these wide receivers are going to get pushed up on Underdog. We can get James Conner at the 3-4 turn. And with Lamb, there's so many targets available. So many targets available. Now that you have James Washington injured, you have Amari Cooper in Cleveland, you have Cedric Wilson in Miami, you have Michael Gallup injured. CeeDee Lamb's the last man standing in at least the number 1 offense from last season. It's hard to project that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be the top scoring offense yet again in 2022, but I think you can be excited here. Lorenzo says, here every night, you got me addicted to Underdog. Thank you, my man, for coming out, hanging out with us in these live drafts. Dan Sky says he's at pick 4. Thank you for drafting with us. We have Michael at pick 7. We have Luke at pick 2. Okay, so Luke is J.K. Hooper. Okay, just trying to put names to faces here. Will says, someone just took Jefferson at 2 in my draft as well. Ryan says he's at the 101. Okay, just trying to put your YouTube names together with your Underdog names because, of course, they're pretty much different for everyone. Kingview Mead says, in my opinion, they'll take a slight step back, but they are under the gun-based Jerry Jones, so balls out for Dallas this year. Yeah, I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys offense. Over the past 3 years, this is one of the most aggressive teams in the NFL with both pace of play as well as passing rate over expectation. Like even in game-neutral environments where the score is close, where it's within 1 touchdown, the Dallas Cowboys are looking to throw the ball over and over and over and over again. And that's just an environment that breeds fantasy football points, especially when you're pushing the pace of play. So when you project the Dallas Cowboys passing offense to be a top 5 offense in general, it's not like you're saying they're a top 5 offense in terms of the talent that they have. Well, of course, the talent's going to be the main driver. The talent's definitely going to help it, but it's also the play calling since Kellen Moore has taken over for the Dallas Cowboys as offensive coordinator. This has just been an environment that breeds fantasy football points. Now you have Mark Andrews falling all the way to 23 to J.K. Hooper. You have A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, all going off the board in a row here. So maybe this is a draft that pushes up wide receivers slightly. Nick Chubb, Keenan Allen there at the 2-3 turn. Are there any players falling? I guess Javonte Williams falling. Javonte Williams only goes in the 3rd round now. Like, I don't even want to say Javonte Williams is falling, even if he's past his ADP. Sworn says KJ Hamler will be the wide receiver 1 in Denver. This is a breakout season. Okay, I'll say. If KJ Hamler is indeed the wide receiver 1 in Denver, which is not happening, but I do have a KJ Hamler jersey hanging on that wall over there. Like the only jersey that I currently have up in this studio is a KJ Hamler jersey. We have a framed Odell Beckham Jr. New York Giants jersey. We have an Amari Cooper Las Vegas Raiders jersey. We have a Sammy Watkins Buffalo Bills jersey. We have those tucked away in the closet, but I currently have that KJ Hamler jersey hanging up, and I will let you know, if Hamler somehow became the wide receiver one in Denver, we'd be making bank this year, but it's not happening, my friend. It is not happening. It's most likely Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion. Kyle Pitts goes pick 30. Josh Allen, 31. Let's see what's going to happen here. I'm assuming that we're probably going to end up with James Conner at the 3-4 turn. Let's see if these people make us take Sutton. Where do I officially have Courtland Sutton ranked? Because Courtland Sutton was going as the wide receiver 16 before the Tim Patrick injury. I had him as the wide receiver 24 before the Tim Patrick injury. But let me pull up our updated draft guide. I think I have him at 16 or 17 now. Maybe 18. I have him as a mid wide receiver 2 now. Because it is a massive difference, guys. Tim Patrick led this team in touchdowns on a year-to-year basis. I have Jerry Jeudy 18. I have Sutton 19. So I still think I still think Courtland Sutton is slightly overvalued, but definitely a much more reasonable selection than he was beforehand. Okay, at this point, we're going to go Jalen Waddle, and then I have no idea what else we're going to do. What the hell do we do here? Spam the chat. Please let me know, who do you want outside of Jalen Waddle? I was taking Travis Etienne, and it was a no-brainer before the James Robinson news. Ezekiel Elliott, Hollywood, Terry McLaurin, Allen. None of these guys are that exciting for me. Spam the chat. Who do you want? I'm going with y'all. We have Etienne, Breece Hall, Ezekiel Elliott, Breece Hall, Hollywood, Allen Robinson, Etienne, Zeke. Okay, so it looks like most people are down between Ezekiel Elliott and Travis Etienne. Looks like most people are saying Travis Etienne. It's so gross. Like, this is the most boring start ever. We've had no values fall to us. We've gone cookie cutter through the first 4 rounds. Hopefully something gets changed up at this point. I would be excited about this start if it wasn't for the James Robinson news. With the James Robinson news, you do have to reevaluate the probability that Travis Etienne isn't getting every single touch in the red zone. I don't give a damn if all of a sudden James Robinson's coming out and James Robinson does have a role on a week-to-week basis in this offense, is taking, say, 10 to 12 carries a game. As long as those carries are between the 20-yard lines, where those carries aren't high-value touches, where those aren't going to be translating to a ton of fantasy football points, hell, take it. Make sure that all of a sudden we just have the most efficient play possible for Travis Etienne. He's getting all the high-value looks, and he is fresh when he has them. But there is an outside chance that James Robinson is a red zone back. James Robinson is the bigger back here. So I'm a lot more concerned with Etienne than I was like a month ago. A month ago, I loved taking Travis Etienne at this price point. I was advocating to take Travis Etienne at this point. Okay, Godwin off the board, 43. Love the Godwin hype. Y'all know Godwin was a wide receiver we were calling a must-draft option when he was being drafted as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy drafts, because people on the internet felt the need to tell you that freaking Chris Godwin was going to miss 8 games. Don't know where they got that from. Now he's back at practice. I'm standing by the stance that I've had the entire time. Godwin probably misses the first few games of the season, probably back by week 4. And if Godwin was fully healthy, he would be a 2nd round selection. So here in the 4th round, this is, I don't want to say great value for Chris Godwin, because usually Godwin's going at the end of the 5th, and there I'm jumping up and down to take him. But here in the 4th, I'm just excited to see this price point go up, because we have so much 5th and 6th round Chris Godwin from our drafts earlier in the offseason. Okay, so we have Justin Herbert, pick 48. Lamar Jackson, pick 50. D-Lon says they got it from the normal ACL recovery process. No, they did not. Because the normal ACL recovery process, 9 months. This is why I've been saying that he comes back week 3, week 4 the entire time. Because if you look 9 months from the time, comes back week 3, week 4. There's no normal process. What the hell is going on? Was there Hollywood Brown news that I didn't know of? Guys, please let me know ASAP. Was there, I understand he has a speeding ticket, but did something else come out? Hollywood Brown, ADP of 39. We're on pick 57. I'm going to Twitter right now. Let's figure this out. I feel like some news had to happen. He fell to us in the last draft as well. I was fine taking him at the end of the 4th round. Darnell Mooney, 57. Okay, I don't see anything. It's just the speeding. Okay, this draft just got exciting, ladies and gentlemen. We just got Hollywood Brown 22 picks past his ADP. We were getting DK Metcalf here as well. This draft just got exciting. This is, oh my gosh, this is the best draft we've had tonight. There's going to be no team on under. There's going to be no puppy draft that looks like this. There's not going to be a single one. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Hollywood Brown and we're going to take Metcalf. I understand the thought process, maybe wanting to take Kyler Murray at this turn as well, getting that Arizona Cardinals stack in. But no, I mean, we're taking a 6th round DK Metcalf. Oh my gosh, I'm excited about this. We'll get Dak Prescott in the 8th round. We don't need to go ahead. We don't need to take Kyler here. If we get that value of DK Metcalf, wide receivers coming off right after. Guys, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this live stream. This just got real interesting. We are going to build a juggernaut team here. And also, subscribe to the channel. We do these drafts every single night. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Link in the live chat. Link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Most importantly, you can have some fun getting these drafts with us. Getting drafts in the public lobby. And when you use promo code FLOCK, you'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Oh, through the first 4 rounds, I was so depressed. I was like sitting back here in this chair going, oh my gosh, what are we supposed to do with this team? It seems like any other team that's ever been drafted, this is the most boring cookie cutter team ever. But at this point, no, it is not. This team has some upside. Brady goes pick 67. These quarterbacks have been sliding up a bit, but it's like weird guys going. Like Brady going here at 67. Burrow going at 53. Kyler Murray is still on the draft board. Did something happen with the Arizona Cardinals? I'm looking up Arizona Cardinals on Twitter right now to see if something happened. I've never seen Kyler fall this far. I've never seen Hollywood fall this far. Did something happen with Kyler Murray, and that's why we saw this fall for Hollywood Brown? Okay, no, I don't see anything. You look up Kyler Murray on Twitter, it's just all about him playing Xbox and the contract stipulation that he had. Okay. Just imagine. Imagine. Okay. We have some people saying Kyler's beefing. I don't get. Kyler Murray's 71. I was going to say, imagine if somehow we got Kyler Murray making it back to us. If we had Kyler Murray making it back to us, I would probably have to shut down the live stream because I would have flipped my desk. I would be throwing a party in this room because we would have won Best Ball Mania. I'm sorry. We would have won the Puppy 3. We would have won $200,000 off a $5 buy-in. But looks like it doesn't happen. I'm still so excited about this draft. So damn excited. Antonio Gibson, 74. At this point, I don't even know what we are hoping for. I mean, Hopkins on the way back around would be pretty nice. Surprised to see that J.K. Hooper didn't take DeAndre Hopkins there. If I were them, I would almost auto-draft DeAndre Hopkins when you take Kyler Murray at pick 71. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins pick 74 is going to be the no-brainer. But okay, this is... What gift are we going to get at our next pick? Mike says, Kyler's stats are worse apparently when COD has double XP weekend. I saw a lot of those memes with Kyler Murray and video games, of course. I saw a meme like, I don't want to get into it. It was, a lot of those jokes were pretty funny. A lot of them were just stupid, but. Okay, so Allen Lazard off the board, good. I don't care about Allen Lazard. I'm happy to see him gone. Trey Lance, 79. The issue with taking Russell Wilson is I would be fine taking Wilson before the Tim Patrick injury, even when we didn't have Jerry Jeudy and when we didn't have Courtland Sutton, because you can go ahead, you can get Tim Patrick, get KJ Hamler later on, but now one of those guys is no longer available to, so it's going to be a lot harder to get those late stacks with Russell Wilson. Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board there at 81. I think Dak Prescott is going to be one of our picks. I understand Dak is a player that's been falling a ton in these drafts once we've had the report with the James Washington injury as well, because it seems like this Dallas Cowboys offense has just gotten worse and worse and worse. Okay, WTF lock on the clock. They have Jalen Hurts. I wonder if they decide to go Miles Sanders. We're going to go Dak Prescott and then whoever was left between Brandon Ayuk and Miles Sanders. Or do we go Pollard and get the double stack in with Dallas? I have not drafted Pollard at all in these fantasy football drafts because he has an ADP before he had an ADP before Clyde Edwards-Helaire by about 10 picks, and I thought that was the craziest thing ever. But I guess Miles Sanders has an ADP one spot before him. I think Miles Sanders is in a completely different tier than Tony Pollard, so usually I don't even consider him. But when we take Dak here, are we interested at all? You know what? I'm not, because we're going to be able to get Michael Gallup at a price that I really like later on. Like, I really do like Michael Gallup's ADP. I definitely prefer drafting Gallup over Tony Pollard. So let's go ahead. Let's get Miles Sanders here. And this is a great draft. I mean, our three running backs, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Miles Sanders, our four wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf. We have Dak Prescott as well. I understand Dak Prescott is a player that's falling. A lot of people are lowering their expectations with how injured this Dallas Cowboys passing core is. Like 100%. Dak Prescott's going to have probably the worst weapons this year in Dallas than he's had in a very long time, just given the injuries that you have to Gallup, given the injury that you have to James Washington. Like, the depth is not here in Dallas. But we took CeeDee Lamb at pick 13, betting that CeeDee Lamb was going to break out to be an elite level wide receiver. If that were to happen, we do want the correlation in with Dak Prescott. So I think it's a completely fine pick. Okay, now Hawkinson goes 88. Marquez Valdes-Scantling goes 89. Mike says, when is Michael Gallup coming back? Week 4. With Michael Gallup, I would say week 4 is probably a good expectation. He did tear his ACL after Chris Godwin. Like, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Michael Gallup actually starts the season on the PUP and misses the first 4 weeks and we don't get Gallup back until week 5. But I mean, Michael Gallup is a wide receiver. That's a great talent. It's not like Michael Gallup's just been propped up by the Dallas Cowboys passing offense. I mean, with Michael Gallup, we go back to 2019, the year before CeeDee Lamb was drafted, where it was Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper in that offense. And Michael Gallup averaged more targets per game and more receiving yards per game than Amari Cooper. And Michael Gallup was drafted in 2018. That was Michael Gallup's second season in the NFL. So all of a sudden, Gallup's going right back into a situation where he's the clear number 2 pass catcher in Dallas, and this target tree is not being dispersed between so many different players. Like, Gallup is in a much better situation this year. Of course, the injury is going to keep his price down, as it should. But for this tournament draft on Underdog specifically, let me remind everyone, if you are just signed up for Underdog Fantasy, if you are on Underdog Fantasy, of course, you can just go and get in some regular 12-team drafts. You don't have to do these tournament drafts, which I personally love. But we're in a tournament draft right now. We're in the Puppy 3. So first place in this 12-team league is going to get paid. Second place in this 12-team league gets paid. I think the rake on this is about 9 or 10%. So Underdog, how they make their money is they take 9 or 10% out of the league pot. But a small percentage of every single league pot is set aside for the massive tournament in weeks 15, 16, and 17 at the very end of the season for the fantasy football playoffs. So I am personally in these tournament drafts looking for options that have access to elite level ceilings in weeks 15, 16, and 17. That's why I've been more likely to draft Chris Godwin at the 5-6 turn than most other people. That's why I'm going to be more likely to draft Michael Gallup over someone like Jalen Tolbert when you're getting a 2-round difference between those two players. I'm willing to sacrifice the first 4 weeks and try to find access to that elite level ceiling down the stretch. Okay. But let's see this. Lockett 101. Let's move this down. Okay. I see some people in the chat saying, oh, Miles Sanders said not to draft him, so that means you... Guys, Miles Sanders came out and said, when he was asked a question saying, how do you feel about people approaching in the street telling you about their fantasy football teams? He clearly got annoyed. He clearly does not like people talking to him about their fantasy football teams. And he goes, okay, yeah, don't mess with me on that. Like, if you're going to talk to me about your fantasy football team, just don't draft me in fantasy. That has nothing to do with his expectations this upcoming season. Like, if you're fading him on that, you're fading him for all the wrong reasons. Now, let's go ahead. Let's draft Russell Gage. I don't love Gage. However, he got paid $30 million this offseason. I do think that Russell Gage is the wide receiver 3 in Tampa. I 100% agree. He is a player that was being drafted in a laughable range. He was being drafted in a laughable range when he was going in the 6th round of drafts earlier this year. But getting him at the 9-10 turn, getting him at pick 108, it's going to be fine for Gage. I don't want to act like it's the best pick in the world, but I definitely want to go ahead. I definitely want to grab some wide receivers here. And I don't even have much Russell Gage at all. So y'all know when I'm drafting 500-600 teams, I do have to keep in mind the exposures that I have on certain players. And because I simply never drafted Russell Gage for like the month that he was going in the 6th round, this is one of those guys that I have absolutely none of. So I can almost have some guaranteed profit here. If all of a sudden when Gage is falling to the 10th round, he's falling to pick 108, I can go ahead and I can grab some shares of him. Like if you look at this, I currently have 5% Russell Gage. So I feel like let's get that number bumped up a little bit. And really the only reason I have 5% Russell Gage is because I've been taking a lot of him here past pick 100 to try to get to 5, 6, 7% because we are going to go ahead and try to just profit. Avoid him in the 6th and draft him in the 10th and have about an average exposure on him. Okay, so Zach Ertz goes pick 116. So Julio Jones goes in the same range. Let me know right now in the live chat, who do you think has more fantasy points this upcoming season? Are you expecting Russell Gage or Julio Jones to be the wide receiver 3 in Tampa? Who scores the most points there? Personally, I think it's Gage. I think we look at that $30 million contract, say, yes, I understand Julio Jones is one of the best wide receivers of all time. But at the same time, if we're being realistic, Julio Jones isn't the same wide receiver he once was, or he would have signed before this. Okay, so let's see. Julio, Gage, Julio, Gage, Julio. Dean says, I'll draft Julio if he has moved to tight end. Connor says Gage. Okay, so most people are saying Julio Jones. I guess actually we have a string of people late saying Russell Gage. Yeah, trust me. I was not drafting Gage at all in the 6th round. Like, I'm not a massive Gage fan unless you're getting him at this price point. I do think he is the wide receiver 3 in Tampa. And if something were to occur to Mike Evans, if something were to occur to Chris Godwin, the contingency value that you were to have with the Russell Gage, he could be a top 24 wide receiver in fantasy because going back to what we were discussing with this Dallas Cowboys offense, where this offense is going to be one that just looks to throw the ball every chance they get, and at the same time is going to push the pace of play where they're running a ridiculous amount of plays per game. That Tampa Bay Buccaneers passing offense is just like Dallas, and it just breeds fantasy football production. But let's recap this team so far. We had Dak Prescott at quarterback. At running back, we have Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Miles Sanders. At wide receiver, we have CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf, Russell Gage, and Chase Claypool. Ed says, Julio Jones more fantasy points based on touchdowns. Oh, my man. I don't know if you know anything about Julio Jones and his touchdown rate throughout his NFL career. Let me go through and pull up the average touchdown rate that Julio Jones has had, because I'll admit Julio Jones is one of the best wide receivers of all time. I mean, of course, I'm younger than a lot of people in this live stream, so I can't speak on back when athletes weren't as athletic. Let's put that out there. But if we're looking at Julio Jones coming into the NFL in 2011, the man's had a total of 61 touchdowns. And he's had a total of, oh my God, over 1,300 targets. Julio Jones has averaged a 4.4% touchdown rate. Julio Jones isn't a touchdown scorer. Like, Julio Jones is a lot of things, but it's not like he's going to be racking up touchdowns. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's take Darrell Henderson and Michael Gallup. I think when we take Dak Prescott, what I've come to prefer as of late is I've come to prefer just waiting on quarterback, grabbing two guys at the very end, like the very end of drafts here. We definitely want to get the Dallas double stack. We talked about passing on Tony Pollard in favor of Miles Sanders earlier in this draft, so we could go ahead and instead, if we wanted to get that double stack with the Dallas Cowboys offense, we could do that with Michael Gallup, who I felt his ADP has been very reasonable here whenever you're getting him this far after Jalen Tolbert. Tolbert goes before Garrett Wilson again in this draft. I just can't believe that. But yeah, let me compare the Julio Jones touchdown rate to Russell Gage's touchdown rate. Because Russell Gage is not necessarily a massive touchdown scorer either. I mean, Russell Gage has a whopping 9 touchdowns through his NFL career. Russell Gage actually does have a lower touchdown rate. That is surprising. Russell Gage has a touchdown rate about 1% less than Julio. But regardless, neither of them are going to score a lot of touchdowns. I think we can assume that's going to be Mike Evans. If I had to predict who had more raw targets this upcoming season, if I'm predicting raw targets, it's 100% going to be Gage. Okay, so Jahan Dotson goes 138. Jason says, just found the stream and signed up for Underdog. I am team 3. How am I doing? Okay, let's go through. Let's check out team 3. Of course, thank you so much, my man, for taking your time coming out to draft with us. You go CMC in the first, AJ Brown in the second. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of these wide receivers at the 2-3 turn. Like, I think I honestly prefer going ahead and taking Mark Andrews there at the end of the second. I mean, at least that's what I did at the end of the second round last draft. Now I understand last year you did have the Baltimore Ravens probably with an unsustainable amount of passing volume, like 100%. We are going to see the pass attempts down for Baltimore this year compared to where they were a year ago. But at the same time, if we are just going to be fair, this should be an offense that is going to be significantly more efficient with Lamar Jackson under center compared to Huntley, where Huntley was legitimately one of the worst quarterbacks, if not the worst starting quarterback in the NFL from an adjusted yards per pass attempt standpoint. So I think the passing volume in Baltimore goes down. The efficiency goes up. I still love Mark Andrews in the second. Michael Pittman in the third. I'm not a Pittman guy. I prefer Kamara. Juju in the fourth. I'm honestly not a Juju guy here. It sets you up to get Patrick Mahomes, and I understand you want that Patrick Mahomes stack, but I mean, you were able to get a great value on Sky Moore a little bit later on. Like, what I would probably prefer is going Darren Waller in the fourth, taking Patrick Mahomes in the fifth. Love pick 70, Josh Jacobs. Love pick 75, Drake London. Really like getting that double stack there once you take Sky Moore with Mahomes. Really like the Edmonds pick. Really like the Garrett Wilson pick. Not a massive fan of Cole Kmet 123. I probably prefer Galladay. But outside of that, I think really my only issues are rounds 2, 3, and 4. I think in the middle of the draft, there were some picks that were a lot better than what we had. Okay. So let's go through and let's try to figure out what we are going to be doing with our next selection. We have yet to take a tight end. I have been going with more and more 3 tight end builds, and I'm not taking the Dawson Knox. I'm not taking the Zach Ertz. I'm not taking Cole Kmet or Irv Smith when they were going at the early 120s. Like, I prefer this range. Like, just wait until the very end. All these tight ends are the same. I actually have a video coming out about this tomorrow, but all these tight ends are the same. So I'm going to prefer waiting until the end of this tier, grabbing someone like Gesicki, but he's off the board. I don't know who we would get at tight end. I'll scroll this down. KJ Hamler off the board, 150. Hamler would have been a wide receiver we would have taken. Okay, so we have a question coming out from Ed. It says, does the link automatically take you to the draft room? I kept on getting sent to the lobby. Okay, so that link that you'll find in the live chat or in the description of the video, that is the link to go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. So just in case you don't already have an account set up for Underdog Fantasy, you can go through that link to make sure you are ready to join our next draft. Our next draft is going to be a puppy draft. So you'll just go through that link and then you'll join the puppy draft at the same time that we do. We do a lot of private drafts, but because there's a puppy draft and it's not going to be open for that much longer, I'm assuming that it's going to get filled relatively quickly. I want to join these drafts as much as I can because, hell, I think it would be the most badass thing ever if somehow we ended up winning $200,000 off a $5 buy-in on a live stream and be able to watch that video a year from now. Carter's the easiest pick I've ever made. I'm going through, I'm trying to find another pick after that. I don't want to go with the wide receiver here. I think we're so strong at receiver, I don't even think we need to. Quarterback, Winston doesn't really correlate with anybody. Matt Ryan doesn't. We probably reach on tight end. Speaking on what we were talking about earlier, all these tight ends are the same for me. I understand we're reaching a lot. DJ Chark's the clear value, but we don't need another wide receiver. Let's go Robert Tonyan here, pick 157. With Robert Tonyan, in my opinion, one of the worst picks in fantasy last year because you were drafting him off his touchdown rate. This year, he's in a better situation, and you're getting him at a much cheaper price. So let's go ahead. Let's take Robert Tonyan. Tyler Higbee, the exact same. I think all those guys are the same. Derek says, Mason, let's fire up one more. Of course, thank you so much for coming out, Derek. Derek, a longtime member of the flock. How about this? We'll keep it reasonable. There's about 650 people watching the live stream. We've had almost 5,000 views. So ask for like 15% of people. It's like 1.5 people for 10 people watching this to drop a like. This live stream, it's not even 700. We won't go that rich. What time is it? It's 10. Let's go. If this live stream hits 680 likes on the stream, we'll fire up another one. How about that? How about that? 680. Marty says, how many viewers do you expect to be in the live streams on September 1st? I don't know. All I know is I really hope we have 90,000 subscribers by then so we can get a 24-hour live stream underway. So also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. If we hit 90,000 subscribers, we are going to fire up a 24-hour live stream draft. And on top of that, if you're already subscribed, you can help us get there by dropping a like on the stream, of course, and that will also get another draft going tonight. The Chosen Rose says, you have to pay for drafts, LOL. 100%, every single draft that we do is a real money fantasy football draft. Like, it's a $5 buy-in, $60 pot. I think Underdog takes 9 to 10% as the rake. It's just right there when you join. You can see exactly what Underdog takes. Everything's very transparent. And then a small percentage of every league pot for the drafts that we're going to be joining is taken and put into a massive pot for the fantasy football playoff tournament, weeks 15, 16, and 17, where that's how you get like a $5 buy-in, $200,000 for first. Though first place and second place get paid in every single 12-team league. Okay. So we have Matt Ryan, 166. Derek says that's a little rich on the likes. I mean, we are 30 away. 30 away, and we got 4 more rounds to go. Okay, so Matt Ryan off the board. We still need 2 more quarterbacks. We have Dak Prescott. I know some people may feel confident enough to only draft 2 quarterbacks with Dak, but I'm going to take 3. Okay, so Zach Wilson goes 169. Let's go through and let's try to figure out what quarterbacks we could look to take with this team. We do have some correlation with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have liked the idea of getting Kenny Pickett in a few of these drafts, specifically in the tournaments, where not every single person's drafting Kenny Pickett. This is a player that should be starting weeks 15, 16, and 17. If he has a random spike week, nobody really is going to have him in that tournament. And when we have a Najee Harris, when we have a Chase Claypool, I don't mind the idea of taking Kenny Pickett in the 18th round. Outside of that, with Jalen Waddle, obviously, Tua is already off the board. Lawrence is already off the board with ETN. We have Kyler off the board. I'm not taking any quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. Hurts is off. Brady's off. Pickett, we already talked about taking the 18th round. Michael Gallup, we stacked with Dak already. I guess we don't really have too many stacking options here at the very end of this draft. Let's try to figure this out. Mac Jones, 174. I don't know what quarterbacks we'd want. Boomer Zooner on the clock. We do need to grab some more tight ends as well. Maybe say we would go with an Austin Hooper in this round, and then we can get Ryan Tannehill on the way back around and get that little cheapish stack in there. WTF Lock has Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, and Deshaun Watson. We don't have to worry about them taking a quarterback. Let's look at this. Where are we going after this? God, I'm on the edge of my seat. I have been taking a lot of Corey Davis here, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I'm racking up a decent amount of Corey Davis in these drafts. This team on the clock. They only have 3 running backs. They go Darrell Williams. Thank God we are going to get Jameis Winston here. We don't have anybody for New Orleans, but realistically speaking, Winston's the perfect fit for this team. Because if we're talking about getting 18th round Kenny Pickett, we want someone that's going to have a late bye. Winston has a 14 bye. At the same time, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, they all have relatively high ADP. So I could see Winston having a really good season and still not necessarily needing another New Orleans Saints to have the true league-winning roster. And then we're going to have to go ahead and we're going to have to take 3 tight ends. So let's take Hayden Hurst here as well. And I know most people want to feel comfortable not continuing to draft wide receivers, but I feel like this wide receiver core is very good. I mean, we got a blessing with Hollywood falling to us at pick 60. I mean, I've never seen Hollywood in the 5th, let alone pick 60. And also at the same time, DK Metcalf, 61. So our wide receiver core, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Hollywood Brown, DK Metcalf, Russell Gage, Chase Claypool, Michael Gallup. Like, I really also like maybe the Gage pick and the Hollywood pick to have the front-loaded production at the beginning of the season to overcome from Michael Gallup's absence with this roster until later on in the year. I think we're very strong at running back. I mean, if we're looking at this at running back, we have Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson, Michael Carter. So those last 2 running backs should have small roles in their NFL offenses with upside for more if an injury were to occur. So I really like what we've done so far. Let me know if y'all prefer Hayden Hurst or Austin Hooper. Patrick says, why is Hollywood falling? Are people expecting a suspension? I don't know, my man. I don't know why Hollywood's falling. And real quick, what I do know is we are 8 picks away from firing up another draft on this live stream. So if you want to get another draft, please make sure you go down there, drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, help us get one step closer to 90,000 subscribers and get that 24-hour live stream going. Hopefully that happens before the season. I'm not going to do a 24-hour like question and answer live stream, so I'm not going to do it if it happens after the season, just because I don't have content for 24 hours unless we're able to do these drafts. So y'all better go down there and drop that like. Okay. So after this, Brevin Jordan goes 190. So Taysom Hill, Taysom Hill's back in practice. If Taysom Hill were to fall to us, I think we do go Taysom Hill. What happened with the Marlon Mack news? Why is Marlon Mack falling? This sounds like a pretty good blurb for Marlon Mack. Mack said he is fully trusting his Achilles and did not get a chance to show how healthy he was in 2021 with the Colts. By the time he was healthy last season, the lead back job in Indianapolis was already in capable hands of Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, as if Jonathan Taylor was not going to be the full down, every down running back every single day regardless. Okay, so David Bell off the board, 192. Good thing for us. Let's get these wide receivers gone. And we have Robert Tonyan and Hayden Hurst. We definitely need a 3rd tight end. Okay, so it looks like we are going to get another draft after this. We just had 680 likes on the stream. Of course, thank y'all so much for the support. And we are 9 picks away. So, you know what? Y'all can just trust me with what we're doing here. Probably taking Kenny Pickett in the 18th round. And we're going to draft whatever tight end we like, whether that's Taysom Hill, Cameron Brate, or Mo Alley Cox as a 3rd tight end as well. I really like how that draft went. I know a lot of people probably won't agree with our decision to not draft an 8th wide receiver, but it is what it is. It's my $5. If it's my $5, I may do with it what I please. And we are going to join this next puppy draft. I'm assuming that most people are already in here with us that wanted to join. When we joined, there were 11 spots open. So I'm assuming pretty much every single person in this draft is going to be a part of the flock. Which is good news for y'all because y'all are able to get into draft in the live stream. Bad news for me because I have to draft against some pretty tough competition instead of some randoms in the public lobby, which I would honestly probably prefer drafting against if I wanted to build a pretty good team and get like Hollywood Brown to pick 60 again. Okay. Look, I hate when people make their underdog names this long. I understand, like, there have been a ton of people signing up for Underdog over the past, like, 3 years or so, and there are probably not many names left. But let's not make your name this long. Like, look at picks 7 and 8. The names running into each other. I don't even know what this name is. I like to do at the, I don't know, 100 on 12. Guys, this is how you name a team on Underdog Fantasy. Fantasy Flock. Keep it simple. Keep it where I can read it on a live stream. If you are going to join Underdog Fantasy and get in these drafts with us on the stream, please have your name be like John 10 or something I can read. But we have first pick on the clock at the 101, then Jimmy's on the clock after that. CMC yet again off the board at the 101 here. I think we're going to take Pickett in that other draft, and then at tight ends, we're going to take Taysom Hill. Okay, so Jefferson goes before Cooper Kupp. I think that is going to become standard with the Matthew Stafford injury. Jamar Chase at 4. Cooper Kupp falls to 5. I mean, if I'm at 5, I'm already excited that we're going to get one of those first 5 players. But if that guy we get is Cooper Kupp, I'm even more excited. Okay. So after this, at 9, we are kind of stuck in no man's land. Probably going to come away with someone like Derrick Henry based on the people that are in this draft. Now, LP 8137, I think that was an auto draft. They take Austin Eckler. Of course, Eckler does have an ADP of 6. The team at 7 decides to go Diggs, then Derrick Henry. Let's think through this. Do we try to get cute with it? I'm trying to think, guys. Let's try to get cute with it. Let's go Devontae Adams. We'll see what happens. I don't think I've ever really taken Devontae Adams before Dalvin Cook. Let's try something else out. This is a $5 draft, okay? This is a $5 draft. Let's just treat it like a mock draft where let's get some practice in. I think Underdog should probably open the $250 big dog drafts. I don't know when. I'd imagine relatively soon. So let's get as much practice as we can. Try out some different things. Not do the same thing in every single draft. That way we can try to find exactly what we want to do when we get in those high stakes drafts. Jonas says, normally I don't like the 105 because I'm not as high on Jamar Chase. But if you get Cooper Kupp there, then GG's. My man, you don't like getting Jamar Chase? Like, let me hear your thought process on why you don't like Jamar Chase this upcoming season. I am interested in hearing that. Okay, so now at this point, I think if we don't get Mixon, we go ahead and take Aaron Jones. Yeah, Mixon off the board. I know most people aren't going to agree with this, but I'm going to be personally going Aaron Jones. Actually, I'm so dumb. I wish I could go back. We're trying something new. Why am I just taking the player I want? I was trying something new. We were trying to get... We should have gotten Deebo Samuel. Should have really mixed it up. I definitely think that Aaron Jones is a better player than Deebo in fantasy. But we wanted to mix it up. We wanted to try something different. Marty says, T. Higgins, a best wide receiver 2 in the league. I would say from a fantasy football perspective, yes, I agree. However, from a raw talent perspective, when they are healthy, I think the wide receiver 2 in Tampa is better than T. Higgins. At this point, a year from now, probably not. A year from now, it's probably T. Higgins. And when they are healthy, I think Godwin is a more talented wide receiver than T. Higgins. And there are some solid wide receiver cores as well. I mean, think about what we have in Miami. I prefer T. Higgins because of his quarterback in fantasy, but I would argue that Jalen Waddle's probably the better wide receiver, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I can definitely see where you're coming from, calling T. Higgins the most talented second wide receiver in the NFL. I'd say he's the best second wide receiver in fantasy. Let me look up just NFL teams on Google here so we can go through and we can look at this. So the Raiders' second receiver, Hunter Renfrow, no. Brandon Ayuk, no. I mean, the Green Bay Packers' second wide receivers, Alan Lazard, so no. Hope y'all like that one. New England Patriots, we don't even know. Philadelphia Eagles, Devonta Smith is good. He's not T. Higgins. Miami, I think Jalen Waddle's probably a more talented wide receiver. Like, if I was starting an NFL franchise, I prefer Jalen Waddle. From a fantasy football perspective, like I said, I prefer T. Higgins given Joe Burrow. Seattle, Tyler Lockett's good. He's not Higgins. Chiefs, no. Bills, no. Bears, the wide receiver 2 are Villa Jones. What? Denver Broncos, Cortland Sutton's a pretty good wide receiver too, but I mean, he's not he's not T. Higgins. Yeah, I would say the teams that probably have a better wide receiver too than the Cincinnati Bengals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Miami Dolphins, and that's about it. I'd say that's definitely it. Okay, so we have Travis Etienne going off the board to pick 37. Really interesting to see Travis Etienne off the board there. Adam says, I got Lamar at the 701 and Andrews at the 301. Is that good value? You know that's good value, my man. Why are you just rubbing it in? Rubbing it into everybody in the live stream. You know you love Mark Andrews at the 301. At least I do. Same thing, Lamar Jackson. I mean, you could easily have the tight end 1, quarterback 1 stacked up on the same team. Mike Williams goes 30. Keenan Allen 31. If Pittman falls, we go Pittman. If not, we go Kyle Pitts. I even prefer Kyle Pitts in a vacuum, but I think it's a more unique combination to go Michael Pittman. So 100 on 12 on the clock. They go Pittman. What was the report with Pitts? Pitts is going to play week 1 in the preseason? I guess, actually, it's not the Hall of Fame game. Yeah, it makes sense. He's a year 2 player, still. We're going to go ahead. We are going to take Kyle Pitts, pick 33. I love me some Kyle Pitts, guys. I mean, if we're going to go ahead and look at the Atlanta Falcons passing offense, I agree it's horrendous. And I'm apologizing if you've already heard this stat before, but it's one of my favorite stats in our draft guide. So I do need to go through. I need to pull it up. If we look at how impressive Kyle Pitts was his rookie season, and we just filter down 21-year-old pass catchers. Not 21-year-old tight ends, because obviously Kyle Pitts was the best rookie tight end of all time. Just 21-year-old pass catchers. That's including wide receivers. And we look at Kyle Pitts with his, he had 6.5 targets per game, but just calling it 6 targets per game, 63 receiving yards per game, or let's do 6.5 targets per game. The 21-year-old players to have 6.5 targets per game and 63 receiving yards per game. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, and Kyle Pitts. That is how good Kyle Pitts is. You get that at tight end. I understand. Trust me, I get it. I'm going to take Hollywood here. I don't care about some quote-unquote beef. We're going to take the discount. But I get it. It's a very bad situation in Atlanta. But Kyle Pitts, Drake London, they are elite level talents. I think they're appropriately priced, and I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be completely fine buying into them. Okay, so Lamar Jackson goes to pick 41 to the Mark Andrews team. Justin Herbert goes 42. So I guess, actually, no, we can't say quarterbacks are getting pushed up draft boards here because you have Allen falling to 35. That is going to be behind Allen's ADP. Sean says, I think Andrews is the tight end this year, but it wouldn't surprise me if Pitts is the tight end one. Yeah, I actually made a video about this that comes out tomorrow. There's a massive mistake that people make in fantasy football at the tight end position, and that's overvaluing those guys in the middle rounds. And my point is, you should draft a tight end early if you think they can finish as the tight end one overall. If you think that, or even just a top 3 finish, if you think Hawkinson can be a top 3 tight end, sure, draft him at his ADP. I think it's possible. I'll draft him at his ADP. Do you think that Dallas Goedert should get there? It's going to be up to you. I think Kyle Pitts can easily be the tight end one overall. I think Andrews can. I think Darren Waller can. I think Kittle can. I'm fine at their price points. The issues that you find in fantasy football is where you're in like the range where you're taking Irv Smith Jr. 40 picks before Robert Tonyan, when in reality, the expected points per game for those two guys is almost identical, where neither of them have the upside to actually really affect your fantasy football team. So once we get past those elite level tight ends, I just kind of want to punt like we did in the last draft, where we waited until I believe like the 4th to last round, ended up just going Robert Tonyan or something along that point. Very late. I think we ended up getting Tonyan at like pick 160. Caesar says, Hawkinson screwed me last year. He sucked, but more because the Lions suck. I would say Hawkinson didn't necessarily suck last year. It seems like he did because he was being drafted next to Andrews, which of course in hindsight, that is horrendous. But TJ Hawkinson last year was a tight end that started off the season. I mean, he played through the entire year at 24 years old. He missed games, which of course are going to make you lose some games. But if you're looking at a per game standpoint, Hawkinson was the tight end 6 at 24 years old. Like, Hawkinson didn't necessarily disappoint. If he disappointed, your expectations were probably just a little bit too high. Okay. So real quick, if you have not done so already, please go down there, subscribe to the channel, guys. We do this every single night. And if we hit 90,000 subscribers on the channel, we are going to go ahead. We are going to get a 24-hour draft going. So also, if you want to help us get to 90,000 subscribers, make sure you're dropping a like at the same time. If you want to join one of these drafts with us, make sure you go sign up for Underdog and you use promo code FLOCK. You'll get a dollar for dollar match up to $100. At the same time, you are going to get our You are going to get our 2022 draft guide. You're going to get our 2022 rankings with a $10 deposit. You're getting a 300-page draft guide, and you're getting $10 added into your account. So you're getting paid to play fantasy football, pay to draft with us on this live stream. Okay. So now Thomas goes 53. So it looks like we are going to have some pretty strong values making it back. Gabriel Davis off. I would have decided to draft Gabriel Davis if he would have fallen to us at 47, just because he would have fallen, 14 picks past his ADP. I hate Gabriel Davis. I don't even like him in this range, to be honest. Like, if you look at our draft guide, we're going to have guys like Metcalf ranked over him. But if we were ever getting the opportunity to draft someone that late, we probably have to go ahead. We probably have to do it. But good thing we took Aaron Jones. I mean, y'all know I was saying, I kind of wish we took Deebo Samuel in the second round to try something new. No. Probably a good thing we took Aaron Jones, because at this point, there are no running backs in this range. We're just going to take one of Brandon Cooks or Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's take Juju. There are a couple different players I'd be fine with on the way back around. There are a lot of different names that I like. We got DK Metcalf in the 6th round in the last draft. But let's take Juju here mainly because I do think it's going to be the most unique combination when Juju has an ADP of pick 52. Very rarely is he going to be on the same team as Devontae Adams. Chris Godwin is the guy that in a vacuum, if you go look at my rankings, Godwin's the pick here. However, it's just about trying to build that unique team in this overall tournament style structure. And I think the unique roster would be Juju Smith-Schuster over Godwin, despite me really wanting Godwin to come back around, despite me at the same time thinking that we would get him. Nick says, Lamar scared me with how slow that offense is. Then again, playing for a contract, so he may take a few himself. I don't really care, to be honest, with the pace of play for Baltimore. Like, when it comes to Lamar Jackson's actual fantasy value, he's just something we've never seen before. Now, J.K. Dobbins goes 62, so there's one player that you should know we really want. Let's see if we get him. FSU for Cole on the clock. He does not have anybody for Arizona, so possibly he decides to pass on Kyler Murray. We want Kyler, of course, but we'll see what he does. He goes to Monroe St. Brown, so we are going to get Kyler Murray paired up with Hollywood Brown. Kyler Murray pick 64. I actually really like this draft. I usually go ahead. I usually take Dalvin Cook there in the first round over Devontae Adams. We wanted to just try something new. We wanted to try to mix it up in the $5 draft. That way we had some experience with almost a little bit of everything for the higher stakes drafts that we were going to be kicking off soon. But outside of the Devontae Adams selection, I mean, I love Aaron Jones in the second. Love Kyle Pitts in the third. Completely fine with Hollywood at this price point whenever we're going to get Kyler Murray at 64. So yeah, I am very excited about this. Okay. Scroll this over. Dalton Schultz goes 68. Schultz isn't someone that I'm drafting very often, if I'm going to be honest. I'm looking at Dalton Schultz as a tight end that while, yes, he does have the perfect, and I repeat, the perfect situation in Dallas. At the same time, from a talent perspective, the gap between him and Kittle couldn't be larger than it is. Like, you're drafting a player just almost entirely due to a situation at this price point, which is fine. But at the same time, based on some of the tight end values that we can get later on, I would probably go that route, because if you told me that George Kittle was the tight end 1 overall this year in fantasy, I wouldn't be that shocked. But if you told me that that Dalton Schultz was, yeah, I mean, I could see top 3, number 1 overall, and really breaking fantasy football. I don't think that's in the range of outcomes. The Rook says, just nabbed the Trey Lance stack. Yeah, pick 70 with George Kittle there. I was one of the biggest fans of Trey Lance in the world until he started going in the same round as Kyler Murray, until he started being drafted before Joe Burrow. So trust me, I love the combination of Lance and Kittle. That price point, it's just hard. Like it's hard for me to take Lance over Burrow. Burrow was the number 1 quarterback in the NFL last year in adjusted yards per pass attempt. Plus the offensive line upgrades. Like I get it. I've made the argument for years in why you should go ahead and why you should look to overpay for Trey Lance. And when I say years, mainly last year. I was fighting the good battle last year in Dynasty Fantasy Football, saying that Lance would be a first-round pick in Dynasty Superflex leagues this offseason. Of course, that ended up not happening because he didn't start, but second he does, he will. Okay, so Russell Wilson goes 78. Beyond that, Linda is apparently the biggest Saints fan on the freaking planet. Congrats on being the biggest Saints fan in the world. But beyond that, we need to figure out who we're going with at 81. I don't like... Tony's fine here. I'm not jumping up and down with excitement to take Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney has been a massive riser, though. Like, let's go ahead. Let's take Kadarius Toney. You have Hunter Renfrow. You have Burks off the board. So these wide receivers are flying. Let's take Toney as our wide receiver 4. I don't like it as much as a lot of other people are going to. I've seen Kadarius Toney going in the late 6th round in a lot of these drafts now, which I think at that price point is going to get a little bit rich. We've talked about this for a couple months at this point, but the elite yards per route run that you've had from Kadarius Toney makes you sit there and really rethink his rookie season, where it's pretty tough to hold it against him because he did miss out on some games due to injuries. He did also get kicked out of a game due to punching someone. So if you're looking at the per game numbers for Kadarius Toney, not great, but those per route run numbers are freaking off the charts. Let me know what y'all think of Toney there at 81. I think 81's a fine price point, and I'll pay it. It's just whenever he's sneaking into the beginning of the 7th, when we see him before guys like Drake London, before Devonta Smith, that's where it seems so rich to pay that price tag. We're going to go with one of Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or TJ Hawkinson here. I don't think we can go Brady. I mean, if we're looking, I guess we could get Gage at 105, Julio at 112. I guess we could get some Tampa Bay Buccaneers later on. I'm not dying to get Brady. Yeah, so we're going to get one of Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's see who they give us. FSU for Cole on the clock. They have 3 running backs. I don't even know if they decide to go with the running back. They go Chris Olave. Spam the chat who you want right now. I'm listening to y'all. If you want Miles Sanders, let me know. If you want Clyde Edwards-Helaire, let me know. We're just going with whatever you want. Okay, we got 1 vote for Miles Sanders, 2nd vote for Miles Sanders. Then we got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH. Most people saying Clyde Edwards-Helaire, looks like. We're going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You don't have to tell me twice. Whenever I put out our hot take running back video today, I did say it was a possibility Clyde Edwards-Helaire is indeed a top 12 running back this upcoming season. Not likely. Not likely, of course. But I do think it's in the range of outcomes. We have Juju Smith-Schuster get some correlation to this Kansas City Chiefs offense. I've talked in depth how I think the majority of these Kansas City Chiefs players are undervalued. I still think that despite Tyreek Hill being gone from Kansas City here, we should expect that this is going to be one of the most prolific offenses in the NFL in terms of overall yards, overall points scored. So yeah, let's take CEH and pick 88. I mean, maybe we can just make the argument, oh, based on the video today, you have to do it. You have to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. And then we had a lot of people saying Kareem Hunt. Guys, y'all know I'm taking Kareem Hunt at the beginning of the 9th round, at the end of the 8th round a lot. But here over Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Miles Sanders, I'm not taking Kareem Hunt. Like, my issue is with Hunt, the man's never, and I repeat, ever going to be the starting running back in his own backfield outside of a Nick Chubb injury. Now, that's not necessarily a reason why you shouldn't draft him. But I would say the same thing with Tony Pollard. Like, it's in the range of outcomes for Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire to just come out and be league winners, regardless of if an injury happens in the backfield. Like, they can just come out and get the starting job, run behind elite offensive lines in very good offenses, and put up fantasy points. Like, for Tony Pollard to become a league-winning player, you have to have an injury. For Kareem Hunt to become a league-winning player, you have to have an injury. Now, I still love Hunt at the end of the 8th round, the beginning of the 9th round, at his price tag. But we're talking specifically in comparison to Miles Sanders and CEH. Okay. So now Kirk Cousins, 94. Love seeing Cousins off the board here. No interest in Cousins at all. TJ Hawkinson, 95. I would have loved to have TJ Hawkinson making it back to us to pick 105, but that's just unrealistic to expect. Linda says Ronald Jones is the play in Kansas City. I actually have more Ronald Jones drafted than I do Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let me pull up my exposures real quick. Let me know if, can y'all see my phone when I show y'all this? Of course, I'll say it out loud as well in case you can't see it. But yeah, right now, let me search Kansas City so you can see exactly how many of these Chiefs I've drafted, because I've taken a ton of Chiefs. But I have 11% CEH, 14% Rojo. Oh, I think it focused in there. Yeah, so y'all can see. Like, I'm drafting a lot of both of these running backs. Very similar to what you were looking at with Tampa last year. You don't know if it's going to be Ronald Jones or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Last year, you didn't know if it was going to be Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette. Same thing with Arizona. You didn't know if it was going to be Chase Edmonds or James Conner. Same thing with Buffalo. You didn't know if it was going to be Devin Singletary or Zach Moss. All you knew, it was going to be a team that put up a ridiculous amount of points, and the potential starter was devalued because there was uncertainty. That's what I'm looking at in Kansas City. I'm going through, I think CH and Ronald Jones are probably both below average running backs when it comes to their actual talent. But I'm not building an NFL team. I'm not building a Madden team. Talent does matter to lead to opportunity. But in these offenses, I think we can go ahead. We can just take those guys. Okay. What's the blurb you got on James Cook today? Okay. Cook has taken some reps with the wide receivers in camp to work on his route running and footwork. The Bills are enthralled with Cook's pass-catching ability out of the backfield, so the rookie second-round pick is likely to carve out a role as a change-of-pace complement to Devin Singletary. Okay, so literally a non-story. That's what we've been talking about with James Cook all offseason. Not to say I don't like James Cook. I still love James Cook. But something that shouldn't be moving his ADP because it's already been baked into his price. So I understand Lockett is going to be significantly worse this year than he was a year ago. But at the same time, with a Mr. Tyler Lockett here, this is a wide receiver that had 2.5 yards per route run. I sent out this tweet earlier today, but if we're going to go ahead and look at wide receivers that had more yards per route run last season than Tyler Lockett, keep in mind, guys, Russell Wilson wasn't good last year in Seattle. Now, wasn't a great situation to be a part of. Tyler Lockett had 2.5 yards per route run. The wide receivers to have more: Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase. He's averaged a top 24 wide receiver finish over the past 3 years. We're getting him at a significant discount. I'm fine with this price point of Lockett at 105. Now let's move this around. How far does Damian Harris fall until we have to start drafting Damian Harris? I don't want to do it. Trust me. I really don't. But at some point, we may have to. Okay, so Tyler Boyd off the board, 110. Spam the chat right now. If Damian Harris is on the draft board, do we go Damian Harris, Derek Carr, or Kenneth Walker? Or honestly, I like all these players here. I like all these guys. Like, if you look at my rankings, I 100% have Kenneth Walker before Damian Harris. Please spam the chat right now. Kenneth Walker off the board. Who are we going with out of this group? We're on pick 112. Isaiah Spiller's off the board. James Cook's off the board. Ramondre Stevenson was selected 10 picks ago. Do we take Harris? Looks like most people are spamming Harris. Guys, y'all know I've been very adamant with how overdrafted and how overvalued Damian Harris has been. But at this price point, it's at least a unique combination. There are not many people that are going to be able to draft Damian Harris at this price point. We need another running back. I understand a lot of people want us to go Derek Carr because you're looking at the stack that we would have with Devontae Adams. And a lot of people probably think that's the way to go. I understand the thought process, but with that being said, I don't like the price point of Carr. I think Carr is overvalued in these drafts. If we're going to be looking at the fact that we can just draft two quarterbacks very late and in the aggregate probably get more production than Derek Carr, probably like that idea more. Guys, I'm not a massive fan of Damian Harris. Please don't pay me as the Damian Harris guy. Like, let me see. How much Damian Harris do I have in these drafts? I feel like I have no Damian Harris. Let's look up Patriots. Let's see how many Patriots I have. Okay, it looks like I'm underweight across the board with Patriots. I have 8% Jacoby Myers, so that's about average. 7% Devontae Parker, so a little below average. 7% Mac Jones, a little bit below. 6% Tyquan Thornton. I have been taking a lot of 18th round Thornton. 6% Kendrick Bourne. 6% Ramondre Stevenson. Haven't drafted them all in the past 2 weeks. Hunter Henry at 5%. Damian Harris at 5%. Like, I'm not drafting these guys very often, but when a player falls, 15 picks past his ADP, I think we kind of have to. Dean says 20 rushing TDs are going to go somewhere. My issue with the thesis between Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris is I don't know if either running back would ever turn into a 3-down player. We know for a damn fact Damian Harris never turned into a 3-down player. It doesn't matter if you have an injury to Ramondre Stevenson. Harris is never going to get involved on passing downs. But even with Ramondre Stevenson, I was fine with this price point beforehand. Like, I had a decent amount of Ramondre Stevenson because before he came so expensive, where I haven't been drafting him at all in the past 2 weeks. But I feel like even if there were to be a Damian Harris injury, Stevenson is still splitting the backfield. You had the New England Patriots go through and invest into 2 rookie running backs on day 3 in this year's NFL draft. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I just don't think that the New England Patriots are ever going to get away from a running back by committee. So that's why I'm going to prefer like Melvin Gordon in this range. Like with Melvin Gordon, yeah, he's in a committee with Javonte Williams. But if Javonte Williams were to go down, we can assume Melvin Gordon is all systems go. We can assume that Melvin Gordon is a 3-down starter. Very similar to Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson's probably with a very small role in Los Angeles, but if Akers were to go down, all systems go. 3-down starter. Okay, so now at this point, I don't even know who we want. We're not taking Fields. We're not taking Kmet. Not a massive Julio guy here. Speaking on the New England Patriots, maybe we just end up going to Devontae Parker. You know what? Let me pull this up on Twitter, but you had some pretty promising Dameon Pierce reports. Let me look at this. Yeah, so it looks like there's a ton of hype coming out of Houston about Dameon Pierce. I'm not a massive Dameon Pierce fan at this price, but what I will say is if this hype continues in Houston for Dameon Pierce, you may not be able to get Pierce here anymore. Dameon Pierce may end up sliding up into that tier with those guys that we ended up just taking with someone like Damian Harris. So let's take Dameon Pierce before his price point begins to go up. Gallup goes directly after us. I was going to try to sneak Gallup on the way back around. Y'all know I'm a big fan of taking Gallup in the 12th. But it's not a pick I'm too excited about. It's more of let's just get ahead of the hype train. Let's try to get ahead so we don't have to overpay for him a little bit later on. Okay. So we have Cole Kmet pick 132. Let's move this back over. Tua Tagovailoa 134. Dotson's off the board at this point. Let's take another second-year tight end. Let's go with the Pat Freiermuth. We were just discussing the need to avoid those tight ends like Irv Smith Jr., Dawson Knox, when they're going at the very top end of this year. But about once we get to that Pat Freiermuth range where we have all these running backs off the board already, I think that's when we can start drafting tight ends again. Like I'm not taking Dawson Knox pick 100. I'm not taking Irv Smith Jr. pick 99. I think those players have a very similar range of outcomes to Pat Freiermuth compared to like the running backs in this range, like Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Edmonds, Devin Singletary, Rashad Penny, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Damian Harris, Cordell Patterson. They all have a much higher ceiling than he mines. So the opportunity cost to take those tight ends a little bit earlier, in my opinion, doesn't make sense when you can just get a Freiermuth at 136. But with Pat Freiermuth here, I mean, he was a very good rookie tight end. You have no Eric Ebron. At the same time, I think you have a quarterback upgrade. I understand a lot of people are worried about no Ben Roethlisberger here. But there's an outside chance that Ben Roethlisberger, who last year only had an adjusted yards per pass attempt higher than guys like Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton, and Sam Darnold out of the veteran quarterbacks, there's an outside chance that Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett are better than that. Not saying it's guaranteed, but what if this passing offense is better than it was? Okay, so Gesicki goes 144. If Gesicki would have made it back to us at 153, I would have been kicking myself for the Freiermuth selection. After this, and if Hunter Henry makes it back to us, I'll be kicking myself for it. Let's think through this. We're done at tight end. We're not drafting another tight end regardless of what happens. Doesn't matter if we're looking at Hunter Henry in the 18th round. I probably can't take another tight end with this build. At quarterback, we have the elite level guy in Kyler Murray. Wide receiver, we have Devontae Adams, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, Tyler Lockett. I think this is a build where I don't know if we need to go 6 running backs. Like we do wait very late to get our second guy. Jameson Williams off the board, pick 146. I would have taken Jameson Williams if he would have made it back. Albert O, 148. Said here, there are a couple players that I'd be excited about. Robbie Anderson, 149. There's one guy that I think we are going to go ahead and take at pick 153, almost guaranteed. Unless we get one of these top two guys falling in Kenneth Gainwell or Michael Carter. If one of those two guys can make it to us a pick 153, we are going to take them as our 5th running back, and that way we'll be done drafting RB. Yeah, DJ Chark off the board. So I think there's a very good shot we are going to get one of Kenneth Gainwell or Michael Carter, which in my opinion for this build would be perfect because I think it would save us from having to draft a 6th running back. We would still have the chance, like the shot to do it if we wanted, if all of a sudden we had a crazy value making it on the way back. But yeah, we are getting whoever falls between Gainwell and Carter. If they both fall, go to the live chat right now and let me know who you'd want. We don't have anybody for Philadelphia. We don't have anybody for the Jets. I would say possibly if we're wanting to go with the 3 quarterback build with 2 extra quarterbacks super late, we could take Carter here and then look at Zach Wilson in like the 16th round. I think Wilson's price point is obtainable. But let's check it out. We have Gainwell, Carter, Gainwell, Carter. Okay, so it sounds like most people are saying Michael Carter. Let's go ahead. Let's take him. I do like the idea of opening ourselves up to the potential Zach Wilson selection at the very end of this draft. Like, let's go through. Let's map out quarterbacks that we could take. We could go Marcus Mariota, pair him up with Kyle Pitts. Mariota would be an 18th round selection. We could be looking at Daniel Jones paired up with Kadarius Toney. Not taking anybody in Seattle. Mac Jones doesn't correlate with Damian Harris. Damian Harris isn't going to catch a single ball from Mac Jones this season. We could go Kenny Pickett in the last round as well with Pat Freiermuth. Not too excited about that. I probably would prefer taking, say, a Marcus Mariota, especially if we think Mariota has some rushing upside. Oh, I do not like that pick. Romeo Dubes ends up being the player you need this year. I guess I'll just lose money. It'll be fine for me. Checking in on Mariota, what was his best season in terms of his rushing production? His second year, he had 349 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. His third year, he had 312 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. It's not crazy. And oh, you fools. Are y'all kidding me? The player I thought I was going to take in the last round, we end up getting in this round. Let's go ahead. Let's take our guy, KJ Hamler. Maybe I'm too much of a Hamler fan, but now that you have no Tim Patrick, it's wheels up. It is wheels up for KJ Hamler, our 6th wide receiver. Very excited about that. Could not be more excited about that Hamler selection. Easily taking him over Marvin Jones. Easily taking him over Paris Campbell. Don't even have to think about it, to be honest. So far at running back, we have the combination of Aaron Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, Damian Pierce, and Michael Carter. At tight end, we have Kyle Pitts and Pat Freiermuth. So I think we'll have an elite level tight end every single week. At wide receiver, we have Devontae Adams, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, Tyler Lockett, and KJ Hamler. At quarterback, we have Kyler Murray. So we should have elite level quarterback play, especially if we grab 2 quarterbacks late, elite level tight end play. And I think decent enough, respectable enough production across the skill positions with a running back and a receiver. But real quick, we are about to pass 800 likes in the live stream. If you have not gone down there and dropped a like in the stream, please make sure you fix your life. Go drop a like on the live stream. And also at the same time, we do these streams every single night. I'm live streaming 3-4 fantasy football drafts for y'all every single night. If y'all want to get involved, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link in the description, find it in the live chat. You can draft with us on a live stream, draft in the public lobby. It's a ton of fun. And when you use promo code FLOCK to sign up, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, and most importantly, have some fun with us in the live stream. And of course, if you want to see us do a 24-hour live stream on Underdog Fantasy, subscribe to the channel. If we hit 90,000 subs, we will go ahead. We'll fire up a 24-hour draft live stream. Marty says, how much does the flock sign behind you weigh? More than you could imagine. Legitimately more than you can imagine. However much you think that weighs, it weighs more than it does. Like, I have no idea how that thing stays on the wall. We have like 4 monkey hooks with it. I'm surprised it's not ripping the wall down. Okay, now Jamison Crowder goes off the board 168. Does Feel a little painful to get Daniel Jones off the board here at 167. I would have been excited about getting Daniel Jones back around to us in the 15th round. Okay, let's get these running backs off, guys. Please, come on. I know Tyrion Davis' price has fallen down, but it's 170. What are you going to do? Take Paris Campbell? Tight end, we're done. Even if we like Noah Fant in this range, we can't take Noah Fant. Tyrion Davis' price off the board, 171. I would like Corey Davis making it back around to us, especially if we thought that we were potentially going to be going with Zach Wilson. So let's see. Maybe we can get Corey Davis at pick 177, and then Zach Wilson on the way back around. Get the double stack there with Michael Carter, Zach Wilson, and Corey Davis. Let's see. The 3 teams before us don't look like they need wide receivers. 2 of these guys have 7. The 1 team right before us has 6. They have Pittman, Cooks, Burks, Robert Woods, Devontae Parker, George Pickens. They only have 1 tight end. Maybe they decide to grab one of these tight ends before the tier falls out with Gus Edwards. With Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst. Let's see what they do. Of course, selfishly, I want Corey Davis to fall to us. Tico says, another 1,000 like live stream. I wish. I don't think we're going to be able to get another 1,000 likes in the live stream tonight, sadly. It would be pretty cool, but we're almost 3 hours into this. It's not going to happen. Okay, so Corey Davis off the board. Let's think through this right now. I'm not reaching on Zach Wilson here. I think we do want to go ahead. We want to take another receiver. We don't have a rookie yet. We don't have anybody that should back half his production weeks 15, 16, 17. So let's take Alec Pierce. I think if we were going to take Alec Pierce, this would probably be the roster to do it on. We can still get Will Fuller back around in the 16th round. Y'all know I have drafted a decent amount of Will Fuller in these drafts. And Alec Pierce, a 2nd round wide receiver. I don't necessarily think that he's a great talent, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like in Dynasty Fantasy Football, I thought Alec Pierce was definitely overrated. But at the same time, hell, he's a field stretching option. He should be better in best ball. I am bummed about not getting Corey Davis, though. That definitely sucks. Avery says, why does this guy have 4 quarterbacks? I didn't even notice someone has 4 quarterbacks. Let's check this out. Who the hell has 4 quarterbacks? Is this team at the 103? They also took Travis Etienne and pick 27. So, they were a crazy drafter from the get-go. Yeah, they go ahead. They take Matt Ryan, 166. They had Michael Pittman, but still. If you have Lance, you take Kirk Cousins at 94. Like, what the hell are we doing here? You go... Guys, real quick, if you were on Underdog Fantasy and through the first 8 rounds, you draft 2 quarterbacks, you can't take another. If you are going to take another, it has to be in the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th round. Like to go Lance, Cousins, and Carr is already piling on the quarterback position. Like you don't need that many. And then to go Matt Ryan there at 166. Maybe it was an auto pick. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and call it an auto pick. Tyrion Davis Price looks like it could have potentially been an auto as well. I know Tyrion Davis Price would have been the highest player according to ADP. Yeah, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and let's call it an auto. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take Zach Wilson at pick 184. We decided to take Michael Carter for the main reason we could get that Zach Wilson stack in the 16th round. I probably still go ahead and take a 3rd quarterback like in the 18th round. If we can get a Marcus Mariota, I realistically think that Mariota will probably contribute more to our starting lineup than whatever random wide receiver would in that range. But at this point, I think that this draft's probably locked in. Y'all know I'm going to draft 1 more wide receiver, whoever that guy is falling to us. And beyond that, we'll go Marcus Mariota in the 18th round. If we don't go Mariota, maybe we go Kenny Pickett to mix it up a little bit. But yeah, I think that's all I got for y'all. This live stream looks like we are live for about 3 hours. Y'all know I appreciate you. I really hope you enjoyed the stream. If you did, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We do this every single night. And if you want to get in a draft with us on Underdog Fantasy, you know what to do. Go down to the link in the description. Go to the link in the live chat. Go to Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. When you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You'll get our 2022 rankings. You'll get our 2022 draft guide. That's 300 pages of information for a $10 deposit. But thank you guys. I appreciate you. I'm going to continue to do 3 or 4 drafts every single night on the live stream going forward. Hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you out tomorrow night.